think it's maybe, you can see it better on the next sheet. So this is Hubbard and 46, as I mentioned, bike racks, lighting, and then Kevin mentioned the bike share. But let me see here. So this is site amenities. I'm sure everybody can see all the elements on this. But if you have time, take a look at it. We are proposing a bike fix-it station kind of central here because we thought it works well with this spine and then with the Emeryville Greenway. We are only showing one at this point.
Well, hey Jim, so on that note, so we were talking to Maru today, and I believe that we've gotten some, and we could give you guys feedback there as well, but we were thinking about putting it over here. Was that right, Maru? Closer to the...
There was one comment, and
about the
we'd
kids
love to have
area.
your comments on it.
Yeah, so we welcome feedback on that, so I think there's some flexibility there on what it fixes station to do.
Okay.
To clarify, this is just one of the Darrow stations, is that right?
It's the
one that you have all over the city.
similar to what's outside out
Okay.
front here. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we kind of indicate that. We're not. I apologize. That's on a different slide, but it is essentially what's out front.
Jim, could you point to the building entrances and the bike racks, which are located near the building entrances?
So the magenta dot is the building entrances, and then it's a little difficult to see, but there are bike racks that are located near all of the entrances. Trying to see what symbol that is. It's difficult to see on this.
And as Jim points those out, those are the bike racks for the general public and visitors.
Correct.
The residents of the community themselves will have their own secure bike storage within each building.
So it's these double lines, and so it's impossible to see on this, but they are located at the building entrances or near the building entrances. In this case, it's kind of pushed south a little bit just to keep this art plaza more open. And then we do have them located along the Emeryville Greenway, grouped with either adult exercise equipment or benches, seating.
And we have some here, it looks like over by the
Right.
kids' play area.
Right. And then some centered around the community garden as well. I think we have there's 110 bike racks total on site. So, and that's public, as Kevin mentioned, public bike racks.
Is that 110 new racks or 110 spots?
No, racks. So
Oh, okay.
220
Okay.
spaces, bike parking spaces.
Just one more, oh, I'm sorry.
The previous slide, I think, showed a picture of the lighting. Can I see that again?
Yeah, and then so we
Um,
do.
This is the lights.
Oh, so the lighting is the Emeryville Greenway standard light, or the stand for Hubbard and 46. It's the standard Emeryville street light. So we have the cantilever
So they pedestrian scale.
pedestrian scale.
I'm just going to see which.
Is there a way to make that light more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some hard copies too that might be helpful. Just grab those.
Marcy, can you also hit those lights, those two?
Oh, maybe that'll help.
Thank you, I was just going to do that.
Oh, well, now the hard copies are used.
Is that better?
Yep.
Not much.
Yeah, we do have some of these.
The street light looks like it's going downward, but the greenway lighting, is that light aimed in all directions?
Jim, do you know, this is that's the standard Greenway light, right? So it doesn't have a shield or anything on it. It's kind of
It does not, that's right, that's the standard Emeryville Greenway light. It's kind of that acorn.
Oh, there's a shield within, the you're saying at the top
Oh,
of here.
There is a shield.
Right.
So they're kind of working that light down.
Why did you miss?
Yeah, I don't know if that's more helpful.
Is there going to be a fence around the play area?
There is a fence on the play area on two sides. So there'd be a fence on this side and then on the Hubbard side as well. And that fence would be screened by a hedge as well, so.
So it's screened by a hedge from the street.
Yeah, there'd probably be planting on both sides of it, just to kind of keep it screened, but, you know, the idea is that the hedge
visually screens, but then the fence physically stops children So
Mm-hmm.
from running out
often,
into the street.
one of the issues with security, especially around children, is that if you can't see
Right.
what's going on, like somebody could be inside and the police, if they're going by, they wouldn't be able to
Right.
see what's going on. Have you guys gotten comments from the police about that? Or?
I
I don't know if we've reached out to public safety.
It
but-
hasn't gone to the Public Safety Committee, Marcy, but it was rounded as all applications are to the police department.
Okay.
And that would be a lower fence and hedge.
Yeah.
You know, I think probably 3.5 foot guardrail height, essentially. Just enough to keep smaller children from bolting into the street. And then I do have a slide that shows the lighting. So the blue dot with the cross through it is the Emeryville Greenway lighting, and then the red dot with the cross through it is the standard Emeryville street lighting. And actually, there's a couple more lights that are missing from this that'll light this pathway a little bit more, and then also provide some lighting in this area.
I have a couple questions, if you still have more slides.
Oh, no, I mean, this is a very abbreviated, so that's the last slide, so, yeah.
Okay. This one's probably more for Kevin. Kevin, do you have does Lennar have any intention of charging residents to use the bike parking inside?
I'd have to check up. I don't think we do. I think that's usually part of the amenities for those residents.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm asking because not all the apartments have the
How to
same.
do that.
Yeah.
And cars versus bikes, if there's uncoupled parking for cars and...
So unbundled parking is part of our code, so it is automatically unbundled. And there will be a condition for approval when the buildings come for permitting, where it will require that the bike parking be free. Because I think like the ME apartment, they have started charging, are they still charging, I believe? So since then, I'm making sure that this condition is there.
Thank you, Debbie.
And the building FDP will come?
Yes, the building FTP will come later.
Yeah, just so that you still have a chance to comment on that.
Okay. For those of us who like to hear numbers and write them down, how many bike parking spots do you have internally for residents?
Wow, you got me on that one. We definitely are meeting the city's minimum requirement and most likely exceeding that.
Mhm.
So, do you remember offhand what the typical ratio is?
One for each unit.
Is it one per unit? Okay,
Yeah.
so at least 500,
Mhm.
if not more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to just confirm, I know it's not really on these slides, but when you had come before, we had talked about the design for the path. And we, because you were doing it like the other greenway, and we had a whole discussion about how we don't like the other greenway. So I just wanted to confirm, I think I have heard that the design is more like what we discussed, where it's continuous from pavement to DG without,
On the greenway?
yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
It is, it's 15 foot of concrete and then 5 foot of DG, and it's all
Continuous.
flush. Yeah, correct.
Fabulous.
So that is the part of the approval of the PUD, so they're required to have that, they can't just put in change.
Well, I just haven't seen it since it had come through here in a different form, and we'd had a big discussion, and I think suggested some changes in that guideline since then because of.
So the
I just
DG
wanted
and
to-
the pavement are not separated by landscaping, right? Is that
Right, that was my question.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've got one more question about indoor bike parking. Is that accessible to all size bikes, or is it only to sort of standard length bikes?
I think we typically have an assortment, so it's in a secured room, so we'll have kind of video cameras set up, access control, and then once you go in, it's a mix of kind of standard bike racks, but there's also be lockers. And so we've heard kind of the desire to have kind of larger bike parking areas for like family style. I don't know what they're called, not tandem bikes, but they're just,
Long tail.
yeah, long
Extra
tail.
cycles?
I mean,
Yeah, I don't know the exact term.
For a
but
family bike, yeah.
Yeah, for family style bikes. And then we've also heard the desire to have, some outlets in there for charging for e-bikes.
Oh, awesome. That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great. And in terms of the fix-it station, what kind of feedback have you received from the public?
I don't
I don't think I really have, yeah.
It sounds like there was one comment that was deciding in terms of the final place that it's going to be.
Oh, right, yeah, I think that was just more kind of internal
Right.
discussions with us in the city, so, I don't know how the BPAC feels, versus, I think there was a discussion somewhere down in here, because maybe that's a little bit more central to the park and the kids' play area, and maybe to the street, and then maybe if you go back in here, it's more off the greenway, but the concern is like, hey, I don't know how many people riding on the greenway unless their bike has an issue would actually go to that location to kind of tune it up, I guess. I think we're open to thoughts.
There is one on the Emeryville Greenway at 65th Street. And so it's kind of like, it's at the end of one section. So I don't know if, how this will function, if people will like, mostly get on at one end and go all the way to the other. And if you want to think about having one at either end or in the middle. I mean, there's probably going to be people using bikes all over this
Yeah.
project.
I mean, maybe another option is to put it over here as you're closer to the Horton Landing, fly over from
That might
the
be a
wall.
good
I mean,
Was the thought about putting next to the kids area that people might repair kids' bikes there, that it would make, was that, I don't know if those fix-it stations work for kids' bikes. I'm not as familiar with the mechanics of kids' bikes.
Kids' bikes are fairly simple. The thing is, for adult bikes, I don't know if you've tried to use the fix-it station, they don't have Allen keys. They don't have basic tools that most people need. So one thing to examine would just be to actually, unfortunately, I know you're just buying an off-the-shelf product, but it doesn't have a lot of tools that people need to.
Well, the one out front, those tools disappear.
Oh, yeah.
Cut it off.
Yeah, the Allen wrenches would disappear literally weekly, and we just could not keep putting them back. And I know they're the most valuable and the most useful. It's very frustrating. People would steal the Allen keys they were just straight, like they were not usable. They would steal them out of the case. I don't know why.
Got it, okay. Well, maybe that's just another.
Okay.
I'm interested in hearing from David if there's another recommendation for a type of fix-it station that doesn't have that same challenge. No? Okay.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
Which I haven't
Got it.
suggested.
And just so everyone knows, we have 2 minutes left for this agenda item.
Thank you, sir.
And maybe down here,
My father
maybe
really
could be more
enjoys-
eyes on the fix-it station, to kind of help with some of that.
My
Yeah.
father really enjoys playing with the Dixie Station at 65th and Greenway, so it's a play yard.
A makeshift kids play.
So we'll need a couple things here. Is there a recommendation that the BPAC would pass for the bike fix-it station? And if there is, then we should tell them right now. Any preference from anybody? I don't have a preference myself. I think it makes sense to have it close to the landing area for the bridge, and that would be my recommendation.
Maybe do both.
Well, there's gonna be more than one, right?
Is there gonna be a fixed station for the residents inside the?
Yes, they'll have their
Okay.
own, what we call like a bike kitchen,
Yeah.
where it's indoor.
What's the total linear along the railroad track?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, I'm just looking at the scope of the project and I'm thinking,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
much
that
is
is
this? I mean,
tough.
that must be what, 500 or 600 feet?
I think it's close to 900.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay, more like that,
Industrial
okay.
thousand.
So it would make sense to have one there and one at the end, maybe.
Two, you
So
mean?
here,
Yeah.
and possibly there.
Yeah.
That's pretty far away.
Can I just say, I think wherever you cite the fix-it stations, they should be somewhere that doesn't feel isolated, that like there's eyes on them.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
from
that's-
a building entrance or
I think this
good
one's
lighting,
better.
yeah.
Maybe this
because-
one's closer to the dog
Yeah,
park.
I think
right,
if-
right underneath the light.
Yeah, if I had a flat tire at night, I would already feel vulnerable, and then I probably wouldn't want to stop and be fixing, and I would feel
Yeah.
very vulnerable doing
That's
that.
a
So
good
if it's
point.
somewhere that feels more trafficked or something, like maybe the landing will have enough traffic that it'll feel safe, I don't know.
Yes, why don't we do two and then,
I have one other question. We haven't talked about PEDs at all. Could you talk about the crosswalks and PED treatment? Is the crosswalk stay at the height of the sidewalk and cars have to go over? Or?
That's a good question, and one I kind of glossed over, but correct, that is essentially a crosswalk table, so the cars would drive over, but it's all flush for pedestrians and bikes traveling along there. Bollards on both sides to prevent.
Does it light up if residents push or?
I think based on this traffic demand, we have haven't looked at that. I don't think from the city, Mike, do you think a lighted above grade crossing or raised crosswalk? My sense is just the amount of truck or car trips on that street. It's not typical to like, it's not like a St. Paulo Avenue type of situation.
What about 46 at the end there?
These are not, that's not raised, because I think the difficulty is
This
having.
is the hard
Right, that hard
intersection.
left or hard right. All of the entries for the garages, you're driving up to them so that it's flush for the pedestrian, but the cars are driving up.
My last question is about the Bicycle Boulevard on Horton Street. I know we're all curious in terms of how the traffic will impact the bike boulevard, so I'm curious about Lennar's commitment to any impact in measuring that.
That's a perfect segue into what I was going to present next. So
Yes.
that's a good segue there.
And so before we finish up this piece here, does anybody have any final recommendations or input that they'd like to provide for this project?
Well, it's an action, and do we have any motions?
I think that at this point we're looking to approve what we see and send a recommendation to the planning commission. So does anybody want to do that?
I'll move approval.
Okay. So we have a move from Ken
Second.
and a second from Tom. And that's to approve the design as we see it. Great.
With taking the feedback, right?
With providing the feedback about the fix-it stations, and that's the only piece, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So all those in favor of approving the plan as presented with the input provided for the fix-it stations, say aye.
Aye.
All right. That's a unanimous aye. Thank you. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jim. All right, so now Jeff Knowles with Alta is going to segue into all of the traffic calming research and work that we've been doing. And so as a bit of background, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, we held a community meeting where Jeff presented this same information, and we got some good feedback from that meeting as well. There's probably about, 15, 20 people there, guys, from the community?
Yeah.
Sounds about right?
So
Yeah.
just for the people, for the recording, we're moving on to item 5.1.1, or point 2. This is traffic calming with Jeff Knowles.
5.1 would be, no, anyway, sorry.
5.12. Yeah.
5.1.2.
Anything else you want to say, Kevin?
No,
All right.
you want to come up there? Yeah. Or do you want to present from there?
If it's okay, I'm going to present from here, joining the table. So again, Jeff Knowles, I'm a consultant with Alta Planning and Design. You can tell I'm a consultant because I wear gingham underneath a dark sweater, like Jim over here. So, you guys noticed that. That's the uniform. So a little bit of background. You know our firm, Alta Planning and Design. We were the firm, the lead consultant for your bicycle and pedestrian plan, pedestrian and bicycle plan, along with designing the interim traffic calming on Horton Street. So I'm happy to bring back some results of that interim treatment with you tonight, and also talk about how do we expand that as part of the Sherwin-Williams site. So you're familiar with your own bicycle boulevard network better than anybody else, I think. And as a reminder, there are goals set with your bicycle boulevards, and they're tied to speed as well as volume. And so in proximity to the Sherwin-Williams site, you have goals on Horton Street to keep speeds at or below 22 miles per hour and volumes at 3,000 cars per day. And then you also have goals on 53rd and 45th, and they differ east and west of Hollis. So on the areas that are marked in purple, the traffic volumes, the city wants to keep them below 1,500 vehicles per day. You have some triggers in your bicycle and pedestrian plan for monitoring. Counts should be conducted every 2 years. And if a bicycle boulevard goal is not met, the city should consider treatments that will allow the bicycle boulevard to meet those goals. In the plan, there are treatment options, different varying levels of traffic calming based on intensity. And what we did when we looked at the Horton Street opportunity is we said Horton Street currently is not meeting its goals in volume or speeds. You're having average speeds around 29, 30 miles per hour. The volumes were at 3,500, 3,600 vehicles per day, so pretty well above your goals for bike boulevards. Alta was brought on to design some interim treatments to see what we could do to figure out how to bring those volumes and speeds down. So these are just some prior conditions. Here I am back in February of 2016. We had a BPAC meeting. I think a lot of the BPAC members have changed over, but Laura, I think you were there, and I don't know, David, maybe you were there as well. Ken was there, Tom was there. We went through a couple different ideas. We looked at having chicanes, we looked at some narrowings, we looked at speed bumps. Eventually, with your input, we settled on 3 new designs for speed humps along Horton Street. And those were installed. And this is the design that we came up with. There were 2 speed humps along with these channelizers, these flexible posts. And based on the input that we received from this group, bicyclists could bicycle along the curb, they could bicycle between the speed hump and the last channelizer post, or they could have the opportunity just to bicycle over the speed hump there. So, drum roll, results. What did this do? Based on counts that the city has taken, traffic volumes decreased 20%, so down to 2,800 cars per day, and speeds decreased down to 21 miles per hour. So, wow. Success. We can call that a success. We've now are meeting the goals of the Bicycle Boulevard based on those 3 treatments there.
That's a round of applause.
So we're really happy. You know, we always come to present to groups like you, and we say, we think this is going to happen. We've seen studies, we've seen research, but here's an actual demonstration of that coming to pass. So monitoring, of course, when development occurs that would impact your bicycle boulevards, those have to be mitigated. That's what Sherwin-Williams is here to do. So how do we expand on that? How do we retain that good momentum we've got, and then also carry it over to some areas that are not meeting their monitoring requirements? So here's where we are right now on other sections of your bicycle boulevard system on 45th and 53rd. Volumes and speeds, again, well above your goals, except for some volume areas on 45th and 53rd. You already have some traffic calming measures. Here's a speed hump on 53rd. There's a new roundabout that addresses traffic on 53rd today. But most of it is just pavement markings on the bicycle boulevards on 53rd and 54th. Some signage. And here's the spur alley. So we've got some ideas. I've got these boards here in the back, and I'd be happy to hand those around. But the ideas that the development team have come up with are, in addition to the 3 interim speed humps, which the city would like to now make permanent, what else can be done to address the traffic calming on these bike boulevards? Curb extensions is an idea. Raised crosswalks was called out as a recommendation in the plan, so this could be an opportunity to implement portions of the plan. Or we can also carry over the speed hump location, which we know where they treat that's what worked so well. When it comes to the 3 on Horton Street, there's a 4th location proposed. In addition, the city would like your feedback on changing out those flexible posts that have been hit and knocked over and obliterated, maybe with something more permanent. And so the concept that the team has come up with are concrete wedges, we're calling these channelizers here, and this is an example of that. Again, the same dimensions would be kept so that bicyclists could either bicycle over a permanent speed hump, or they could go between that slot there. There would be 4 feet of width. So that's one thing we'd like your opinion on tonight. We've come up with 2 different concepts, and they're really broken down on the idea of, does this body want speed humps, or do they like the idea of raised crosswalks? So concept A, we've identified locations where we'd add additional speed humps along 53rd, 45th, and there's that one on basically between 45th and Park on Horton Street, that 4th speed hump on Horton Street. Concept B would be installing raised crosswalks. All right, there'll still be additional speed humps that come on, but additional raised crosswalks. And then as part of the development, it's hard to see, and maybe I can get my pointer out here. But I wanted to really identify that there would be curb extensions here, here, and here along Horton Street as part of access to the Sherwin-Williams site.
Meaning you're shortening the distance for pedestrians?
Correct.
And putting in a crosswalk there?
Putting in a crosswalk, yeah.
How would trucks handle that?
Truck, it would be still flat level, so it would be designed so that trucks could still make the turns. There's still enough room to make that happen. So with that information, here are the 4 pieces of input that the developer and the city would like to have. Does the BPAC prefer raised crosswalks or speed humps? There are pros and cons, and I'd be happy to go into those. Second, do the locations of the proposed treatments make sense? Third, at the locations where speed humps are used, would you like to see channelizers, those flexible posts, or dual speed humps to save more parking? Right now, parking is removed around speed humps. If you added in what would be a third and fourth speed hump, so there'd be 4 now on a row, people could still park on that speed hump and retain parking. The last piece of input, at locations that are being made permanent on Horton Street, would you like the wedge island that I described or existing flexible post design?
Could a fire engine go through that wedge island?
Say it again?
Could a fire engine go through the wedge cement thing you just described?
Can bicycles go through?
Fire
engines, yeah, fire currently, it wouldn't change the dimensions of the existing design, and so fire trucks would have no problem going over the slotted speed humps as designed.
Is there any benefit to the channelizers compared to the speed humps? Because it sounds to me like 4 speed humps is better than channelizers. And
if you're trying to retain parking, then those 4 speed humps, the dual design, would allow that to happen. Right now, the flexible post, the wedge island, you'd have to remove parking to
so
make
is
that
the
fit.
channelizers just, do they slow it down more than the speed humps, or why would you ever prefer the channelizers over 4 speed humps?
Sometimes they make up, if they're designed larger, they could be green infrastructure. So I think on Adeline, when I bicycle to work, I see a lot of those have a green stormwater infrastructure component to them, but this would just be another idea to allow bicyclists to go to. What we heard at the last BPAC is that some bicyclists don't like going over speed humps. I've never had a problem with that, but
I don't like these speed humps. Regular, like the speed hump that you were showing on 53rd,
Yeah.
that's fine.
yeah.
These particular, the temporary ones, I don't go over them on my bike because I'm a little nervous. It's a little bit steep. So if they're permanent, it may not be as much of an issue because it'll be a smoother transition with the pavement. I do think, I kind of like the channelizers. I have to say there's a couple places where the speed humps are kind of close. Right after the channelizers, there's parked cars, and sometimes I feel a little squeezed with the cars who are trying to navigate around the speed humps. It's nice for bikes to have the option to go all the way over. Although on the other hand, it's not really safe for bikes to be going in and out of traffic patterns either,
So our time is up for the amount of time we assigned, obviously.
Can I don't think, I don't think that's enough time for this item.
So, go ahead, Tom.
What happened to Sherwin-Williams' traffic diverter plan that they originally came to us with for Horton Street?
We didn't support it, of course.
Huh?
It wasn't supported
By whom?
when they had a community meeting.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. Well, and so Tom, that's an interesting point, and something that we pointed out at the community meeting is that, so this, what we're proposing tonight could be, or is part of a 2-part implementation plan. And so the thought is that once the community is built and kind of occupied and traffic is being generated, these, what we're gonna get formal approval on in the next few months here would be in place. And then at that point, we would go in and measure after a set amount of time to see if we're still meeting the goals that are outlined in the ped and bike plan. And then if not, then we would deploy a second phase, like you mentioned, where it could be more restrictive.
Or just, enforce the 40th Street Horton.
And that could be one of those, is the left turn
That would
off.
change it, because it's just ways telling people to bypass and drive through Emeryville during rush hour that bumps us above our numbers when we bump above our numbers.
I don't know of any good way to enforce that.
Yeah, I think it may be a
Build it and
different,
they will not come.
well, I think it's already helping. I mean, that's just anecdotally, and obviously the numbers bear that out. But I think it may be, it's hard to know what's gonna happen once the development is
Yeah,
in
well, and the
place,
big
so
development at the
might
other end
be-
of Horton also.
Oh, right, so at that point.
I think they've abandoned their numbers over there.
So we want to
Sorry.
keep on track here in terms of the questions that we
Yeah.
have. And I want to hear also from people that haven't had a chance to speak.
I think the wedges are actually kind of a hazard for cyclists if you're clumsy. You can just hit them and not see them. And, you don't want to hit one of those wedges when you're on a bicycle.
Yeah, that does happen.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, the flexible posts are a little more forgiving if you.
Well, and I was going to ask how, and I've asked this it seems like every time this comes up, how street sweeping works, like, to get closest to the curb, so that cyclists aren't, biking in like debris that might have glass in it and stuff. That wedge seems like that would be a problem for street sweeping versus the vertical deflector thing.
Flexible post or wedge, you're still gonna have to go around it to go back over it. If you had speed humps all the way across, you wouldn't have that same issue with street sweeping.
So any of those. Okay.
So it would be the same size speed humps, just with the channels in
twice
between
that.
for bicycles to go through and for,
One there, and then one there,
Okay.
and then 3, 4.
Yeah, exactly. The idea is that we can't let cars cheat the speed hump.
right.
Right, so if there
Right.
isn't a parked car there,
Yeah.
there would be nothing to prevent them to hug the
Right.
curb and zoom past you and collide with you, so we can have some.
Have you considered how the raised crosswalks might help the children going to the school and the community center?
So this is the question, this is exactly what we want to get feedback from this body on the differences between the raised crosswalk, which is excellent for traffic calming, and for pedestrians. It also requires bicyclists. Unlike this, you have to come up and over the crosswalk. So there is an impediment for bicyclists, but it seems to have great benefit for different users as well. This doesn't have a whole lot of benefit for people trying to cross the street, whereas a raised crosswalk would. And that's something that was called out in the original bike plan.
Do you have any slides that show where those raised crosswalks would be?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
And how is the height of a raised crosswalk compared to the height of a speed bump? If it's, like, what's a car's, it's sort of like a speed table.
Yeah, it would be higher than a speed hump, but it would be more
Flat.
gradual. Yeah.
So does it slow cars as much as the speed humps do?
It does.
Okay.
Yep, they're pretty much equivalent on reduction of speeds and volumes, around 20%. So these areas again, I apologize but if you see, there's one located, see that word that says existing signal, and there's what looks like a raised crosswalk on the legend. It's a bunch of orange lines. Yep, Kevin, you can be my banner, and there.
Right here.
And then
Also,
further east.
closer to San Pablo.
And then right here.
Those are the three, and then also one on 53rd,
Spirale.
right there on Spirale, right? Those would be the 4 locations we're proposing.
And what about the school? So you have, ECDC, which is mid-block, I believe. Is that right? Why not have one there as well? On 53rd.
Isn't it an entrance? Is
They're
it?
close to the intersection at Boyer, right? Aren't they right at
Yeah, they
Boyer?
are, boy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So why not have one on that street there?
That would be close to.
Yeah,
school.
like why not have, instead of
Yeah.
any of those proposed speed humps, why not have raised crosswalks?
So when people do drop off, they park on the other side of the street too.
We could definitely look into that.
That's a 3-way stop intersection. That's an all stop. Wouldn't be so effective for reducing
Oh,
speeds.
yeah, because you're
Okay.
saying you stopped here already, then you're just gonna go and hit another.
I also I've noticed that the parking occupancy is pretty highly used for residents on 53rd versus 45th is pretty low. I don't feel like there'd be such an outcry about losing parking.
Do you have adequate
What
handicap
residence is
access?
on 45th? Oh, I guess below.
You have adequate handicap access? Wheelchair access?
On the raised crosswalks?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think in crossings like this where the drivers on 53rd and 45th would not be looking for cross traffic, because it's not a main intersection. I think the raised crosswalks for pedestrians would feel a lot safer and would grab the attention of the drivers a lot more. So it would just feel a lot safer and it'd make it a lot more comfortable to crossing the street there.
Thank you.
And what about where that new signal's going in at 45th? Is there any possibility to do a raised crosswalk there? On 45th?
I apologize.
Yeah, Hollis.
You make all the people on Hollis go across the race crossing?
No, it would be on 45th.
30 mile an hour street.
No, not on Hollis, on 45th. I'm just asking. Because if that was enough, maybe it doesn't make sense because it's
Got two of them
light.
I think because you're so close to that intersection.
Okay.
Can we go back to the slide with the questions?
Yep.
So we can address those?
Can I ask one more question about raised crosswalks? Are they marked? You know how the speed humps will have arrows sort of showing you? Will they have something so that cars and bikes have some visual indication if it's dark or something that they're going up, like, I'm,
Yeah, we could do some advanced lines.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
some
And
I think
signage.
signage, yeah.
okay, I think that's helpful.
All right, so we're gonna, I'm trying to wrap this up here and answer these questions. Evan, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just one more about do you, you're saying that the current bumps are, the temporary bumps are steeper than regular bumps? Do those actually slow the speed more than a regular bump
So
because they're steeper?
They are, the height of the speed hump is the same as a permanent one, but there's a lip that I think Laura's talking
Yeah.
about on there's no way to get around. It's not completely level with the
I see,
ground.
Yeah.
flash
So
there.
bicyclists feel that a little bit more than a car would feel that.
Got it.
It's really kind of half an inch, but it's enough to, you could feel it somewhat, so. It's a little more jarring.
So it
Those
does
are-
not affect car speed as far as we know?
No. They're both equally effective.
But, so the proposal is to take out the temporary ones and put in permanent
On Horton Street,
on Horton
correct.
Street. And would the ones on the other streets be temporary at first or permanent?
I think that this is a good question. I'm looking kind of at the city staff here, but I think that they would be temporary to document and see if they are meeting the goals, and then you can quickly kind of move things around, and it gives you flexibility to figure out what's working. So I think put it in like we did with Horton Street, see if it helps meet the goals, and then you can decide a more permanent solution at that time. That's, I'm speaking kind of on behalf of
That's correct.
Okay.
But can that be done if you choose crosswalks?
No, but there's still some speed humps in the crosswalk
Yeah.
option.
Yeah.
Can I just put in a request that my neighborhood would like some of those temporary speed humps if there's actually one floating around on 55th and Doyle, because we've got a speeding problem.
In terms of the first question, I think I'll take a knock at these here. When I was in Puerto Rico in January, I was really impressed by those, the crossing blocks that had the hump. And so I'd love to see that somewhere here in our city, like, to see like, how it could be used to slow down traffic. I am impressed with what's already been done. And so if those are working, and there's an opportunity for us to use those in another area, then I'd be okay with that too. In terms of the, how it affects the bike traffic on Horton, with the raised crosswalk, that's something I'm interested in. It's a bike boulevard. That would be the first time that we implement something like this in a bike boulevard that I know of. So interested in that impact.
And Miguel, just to clarify, there aren't any raised crosswalks proposed on Horton Street.
Okay, I didn't see any, but it sounded like we were talking about that. It looks like it's on the other streets.
It's just on this cross street.
Got it. Okay, and so for number two, it sounded like we had questions about maybe the ECCL, and it's
ECDC,
ECDC, but it wouldn't be a location that we could use based off of what Mike is saying because of the three-way intersection. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, it's not
Okay.
really
Is it
advised to use these
possible-
at.
Is it possible that we won't be able to get down to the number of cars volume, or desired volume on 53rd, given like parents dropping their kids off at the school? Like, there's crazy amounts of car traffic there every morning and afternoon.
For both ECCL and, mostly ECCL, not as much as ECDC probably, right?
Yeah, I think mostly Annie.
Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
the elementary school just gets a lot of parents dropping their kids off,
Yeah.
both on San Pablo and on.
Yeah, you're at 2100.
Mhm.
We need to get down to
15.
15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
You can always, there's always the different levels of treatments. So the next level from here is either you could go with a level 4, which is some narrowings or more intensive treatments like this, or you get a level 5, which is a partial street or a full street closure. That's something else could be decided as well, where you actually could not make it a through street. So that's the most intensive. If this was, absolutely the goals are not being met, that's something that the city could entertain and look at.
I mean, it's possible that some of the traffic might be people heading beyond Hollis,
Yeah.
Potentially.
not just for the schools, and that might discourage that traffic.
Yeah. I also think that a big issue for me, more than the traffic volume, especially if it's sort of concentrated at small times of the day, is the speed, because that's what's gonna kill a child if they're hit by a car crossing the street. So I think getting that speed down and hopefully, at the very least, that's what these traffic calming things
There's a
will do.
stat, it's like 5 miles
Every-
limit doubles the risk of fatalities.
Yeah, it's huge, yeah.
And continuing on to the questions here, question 3 is something that we haven't had a lot of input on. Does anybody feel one way or the other?
I prefer the dual speed humps. I guess, you know, saving the parking is nice, but the channelizers always collect debris, like, and that's been a problem for me riding through Horton. Like, I see a lot of broken glass and leaves and just stuff that I don't want to ride through, so I end up not going to the right of the channelizers anyway, because I'm concerned about hitting something that'll puncture a tire.
I will say that I like the channelizers because it's a pinch point and it forces the cars to move over to the left. They almost always move to the left, so I have room to go to the right. And if we had 2 speed humps, cars would have the choice to move over to the right to get through there, especially if there's no parked car there, which really pinches me as a bicycle. I'm wondering, I'm not opposed, you know, I mean, I ride in lots of neighborhoods that have speed humps and it's fine. What I'm wondering is, would it be possible to do another test, to take out the channelizers and put in, if we decide as a committee we like that, to put in temporary second speed humps and try that for a little while before the permanent ones are put in so that we could see. It's been nice to have the experience on the ground of what it's like, just a thought.
All right, and the dual speed humps, as much as I advocate for bicycle pedestrian amenities, I think that it's important to have parking for guests that go into the park and to the new resident. So I'd be an advocate for saving the parking on that on Horton and not taking out more spaces than we already have.
On 53rd as well, with, you know, all the parents looking for parking to drop off their kids and that sort of thing.
All right, and that brings us to question 4.
I have heard anecdotally, I haven't seen this myself, but stories of cars going really fast and just running right at night, running right over those flexible bollards. So if we do,
I have it on video.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Founders and I have a game where we like try to catch this one guy who does it all the time.
So for that
we
guy,
have a few videos.
Well, yeah, and I guess either the dual speed humps or a more permanent island. What does the island look like? I don't have a sense of what that would
Oh, the
look like.
wedge, you want to show them?
Yeah, do you have a picture? I mean, but what does it look like from the other?
6 inches tall.
Oh.
It's like turbine.
So it's like,
Is it sort of like
okay, I was
Roseanne
imagining a
Hollow?
Jersey Bear.
I was looking for an example. I thought I biked through Emeryville and saw one, but I couldn't find when I was out biking around.
And it still has
There is
bollards above
low
it,
and
or
like.
flexible bollards above it, or what?
I don't think so.
It'll have
Is there anything
one
that
in the
sticks
front
out
and
beyond
one-
this? Usually it's
one
just the
ball.
curb.
It's
right?
just the curb, but you know, you could do reflective paint on the curb. There's other ways we can make it more visible.
And
You could-
reflectors. for
Yes.
Kind of like,
Yeah.
like this, right? Like this is like.
I remember
the
the
sidewalk,
camera
and it
exactly.
comes out a
those
little bit.
On San Pablo.
Well,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
they're
San
dangerous.
Pablo near.
Yeah.
Oh,
45th.
right in front of the
KFC.
bakery.
I'm not a fan of
Yeah,
those things.
yeah, no, me either. Didn't Ken ran into them?
Yeah.
Didn't she? Pablo?
Well, it's because
Yeah.
it was installed without lights, without reflectors, without cones, without anything.
Yeah.
Or was it just
That
just
was the
plain
first day it
brick or
was,
something?
it was the
wasn't it?
first day it was put in,
Yeah.
so.
Cross curb. It's good cement, yeah. I would agree. I think I prefer the flexible or inflexible bollards if it comes to that.
Yeah, but if you hit that with, on a bicycle, an inflexible bollard, and a flexible cyclist.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
so
Is it possible to do the dual speed hump on Horton instead of either the flexible bollards or the treatment?
Everything's possible.
The dual speed humps.
Should we make a
What-
motion?
No, you mean
One-
the
yes.
three or
one other-
Four, yeah,
Hold on.
four.
One other point coming back
Two
to
on each side.
is just like 2 locations that I don't see that I would like to see. One is at Horton at 45th, is to have raised crosswalk crossing at one of those 2 points. And then also, again, like going to the school, so it would be mid-block crossing on 53rd. Those are both raised crosswalks that I'd like to see. So the one, so that pedestrians from the Sherwin-Williams project can leave it and go on 45th safely, and the other on 53rd, and then for ECCL.
Sorry, I'm sorry, you were saying so.
So right there at that
45th.
intersection on Horton.
Yeah. And so what we've designed there,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at these guys because they know the details a lot more, is that's where we do have the bulb outs already planned. for that intersection, which basically narrows down the travel path, and then you have a crosswalk.
And it'll be
The intersection's on our wish list.
So
It
it's,
is, yeah.
Too.
Okay.
They have one.
We're at twice the amount of time that we allowed for this, and so this is a good discussion, I think that we need it. But just want to remind us that we're pushing back our timing. And then also, this is an action item, so if there's a recommendation that we'd like to make a motion for, then this is the time to do that.
Can I just make a point of order? I feel a little frustrated because I feel like this is really important infrastructure that we're gonna be living with for years. And it feels very, and so is the other items, you know, the next time coming up is also falls in that category. And I don't know if there's some way that we can adjust the, you know, can we put off the wish list till another time or something? Because I wanna make sure we give this as much time as the committee, you know, as people have to talk, as,
Are there?
you know, it's important. We're gonna be riding over this for a long
Yeah,
time.
and I think that we've gotten some good feedback here in the short time that we have for it, but I agree with you. And would like to see us make some type of recommendations here for this
Just
action.
go back to the questions again.
I'll make a motion to what you just said, that we push the wish list until next month, so that we have a little bit more time to talk about it.
Well, it'll be February, because we're not.
I'm in
voting, so-
February.
Yeah.
Does anyone?
That's
I
not
would-
part of this.
No, it's
item,
just
is
to
it?
give us more time. It's to give us more time. I would second that.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor to not include,
You have a motion
To
to
change the
add time to
agenda.
what we're dealing with right now, right?
well, we want to, there's an item that we're taking away here, and that's the
5.3.
5.3 for
5.3,
15
yeah.
minutes, which is great, but then that leaves us 5 more minutes to stay on track.
Is there any
Gives me another
bad,
month to
good
figure
reason
out
not
how
to
to
do
do
that,
it.
Marcy? Does that impinge on anything else?
Well, I mean, there are other things on.
I mean, the wish list, is it, if we postpone it, is it?
Yeah,
Is there
no,
some downside?
So, I mean, there's other things that we've been pushing also, but that's,
But aside from,
that's another agenda item to talk about for the future agenda. I mean, it's like, we're
Yeah.
gonna sort of like spiral out.
Well,
Off the
but
item,
this item has a deadline, so
Yeah, oh, yeah. And the wish list is,
it's sort of more
yes,
open.
there's no like deadline for
Okay.
that or anything, no.
Did we get a second on that?
I seconded it.
Yeah.
Great. All those in favor of excluding item 5.3?
Moving it to
Moving
February.
it to
Moving
February.
it to
Not
February.
excluding,
Yes.
just putting, tabling it to continuing, yes.
All right, so that's a unanimous
Okay.
approval. We'll continue on
All right.
with this action item.
So I guess my question is, could we come up with like a motion for each of these 4 points?
I'd like to propose a motion for number 4 that we not consider the wedge islands.
I would
Second.
second that, yeah.
Okay. Do we want to open up for discussion, any discussion about
We're
that?
gonna go from bottom to top.
Can we adjust?
You started it, so we're doing
Could we,
that.
There's a motion before you discuss, you got a second?
I second
Second
it.
is from Laura.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, McKinney, got it. All right.
so we're gonna start on 4 here.
Yeah.
We don't like
Okay.
the wedge island.
So then it's either the flexible bollards or the double hump
Yeah.
on each
Right,
side.
which
right?
will
So if we
probably
can get some,
work on there.
Yeah.
So I just don't like the idea of having something to trip over like that.
Yeah,
And the right pickup truck, it's not gonna bother them,
yeah.
or the right madman.
Mhm.
Do you have any more discussion here on,
yeah, I
That
guess
motion?
is there a consensus more than towards the flexible bollard versus the double
Well, they're just
hump?
doing
I like the
the.
flexible.
We're starting with that
Yeah.
one, and then we'll go on to it.
yes?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I like the double hump personally for number 4.
But
Even though
but
that's
that's,
not
can we just decide, vote on this
Oh, I
or
see.
can
Yeah,
we
yeah,
call
sorry.
the question, and then we'll move on to the double hump first?
Yeah, we'd like to not recommend wedge island, right?
Yeah, that's all
that
just,
I asked
that's
for.
all it is.
All right, so I think we can vote on that. It sounds like we're ready to vote for number 4. And the motion is to not recommend Wedge Island for that question there. All those in favor of not including wedge islands in the design, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and that's a unanimous approval?
No, I'll abstain, I don't have a preference.
Okay.
Should we move up?
Number 3.
Wait, for number 4, can we suggest the double?
Well, that's number 3.
Oh, yeah, so in number 3, I think we should consider dual speed humps and channelizers.
Oh, that
Motion?
would-
Somebody drives over the things, the first time they drive over them, we're gonna hit another speed bump. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't do me any good.
I use a flexible bowel.
Why couldn't you put both, yeah?
So it wouldn't make any,
It wouldn't add parking.
Yeah, I think the downside is you can park.
yeah,
in that area.
On permanent ones, you can park over them if you want to.
No, with the channelizers, you can't.
You're
Oh, with the
Yeah,
channelizers,
channelizers
yeah,
and-
because that's just too close, right?
Yeah.
It's like within 4 feet or something?
How many spaces would we lose if we went with the channelizers?
Oh,
you could do just one.
Okay.
Can I ask, how wide are the speed humps versus a parked car? Like if I was riding over a dual speed hump and there was a parked car right there at on the speed hump, would that mean I would be forced to go over the speed hump or right in the center of the street as opposed to go to the right of the speed hump? Like what would my choices be as a bicyclist?
Your choices would probably be to go to the speed hump. They're probably, you wouldn't want to be in the door zone, so close to the
Right.
car, that you'd
Right.
want to be hugging the car, so I'd say
Okay.
you probably your options to go over the speed hump.
Okay. Well, in that case, I have to say that I would be in favor of the channelizers because the things that you know, it's been a very hairy few weeks. This time of year is always, it's dark and people are insane. Like somebody drove straight at me the other day, like left an intersection. And I was like, you're driving at me, what's gonna happen here? You can't see me through the windshield. So I'm a little tense right now because I've had a bad week. But it's always, my scary point is those pinch points. And the crosswalks are a pinch point because there's a bollard there and the car and I are sort of sharing the same spot. And cars are always, I can just feel them wanting to pass me because I'm slower than them. And I like the way the pinch point is done now with the channelizers. It allows me to avoid the speed hump and the car has to, you know, we sort of have our own space there. And that I think works well. And I'm nervous that if a parked car is there, we're gonna be pinched together at that spot and I'm gonna be put in a spot where I'm in danger of like, you know, tripping myself up on the speed hump, especially while we have the temporary ones. I really don't wanna go over those on
so
my bike.
is that a motion to use
I would
channelizers?
move to stick with channelizers for now. And yeah, and maybe it'll be different when they're permanent. I would be totally open to the permanent ones. You know, those I think are very doable for a bike.
I'll second that.
So we have a second to the motion?
And could you just clarify what a dual speed hump is?
Just 4 speed humps in a row.
They're the same size and they have the
Across the
race.
street.
Wait, how much space in between each one?
Let's go about 2
A
to
fire
2
truck tire
Yeah.
width?
2 feet or so.
So
Yeah,
it's
it's supposed to be a fire truck. So
yeah.
fire truck
Yeah, like
is supposed to
one.
be able to straddle those things, right?
Correct. This is a
And they're
design.
about
This is a design
8
that
feet wide or something like
that it's basically been approved by the fire department.
Got it.
And if a car is parked on that second speed hump, would the fire department be able to go by without sideswiping the car?
They don't care.
Yeah. There'd be enough room. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. The motion is to, then there was a second
It's
to.
to prefer channelizers.
Yeah,
Okay.
I second it.
Great. Did you get the second from Tom, Marcy? Great. Okay, so do we have any more discussion on this motion that's on the floor? All right, so we're ready to take a vote. So all those in favor of using channelizers for the design on Horton Street, say aye. And so we-
No, no.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Do we have any nays?
One, me.
I prefer that.
We have 2 nays. And any abstentions?
Um,
And 2 abstentions.
So,
Wow, a contentious vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
For us.
the no is Har and who else?
Ken.
Oh, Ken, okay, you're,
Yeah.
okay. So it's 4.
It
Yeah,
can only
it's
be
4
4
Got
to
it.
2,
It's 4-2.
not 5 to 2.
Yeah.
All right, motion passes. All right, and so we're moving on to the question 2.
It's the closest vote in a while.
I know.
I'm glad I can introduce some debate into this body.
Well, there's always debate.
Can you see the slides with the locations?
Absolutely. Yeah. What I've got, I've also brought 2 more detailed boards as well, and this is actual design of the locations. If that would be helpful to pass these around as well for folks. It's a more designed version of this kind of this treatment here. So-
Marcy, you want to turn the lights again?
Yeah.
Not the ones on the wall, just the other.
Yeah, I was at the other meeting, so.
Not the wall one.
Not the wall.
Does anyone want to do that?
This is a bolt out.
Yeah, that's
What is the purpose of the traffic circle there?
Is that really a circle?
Is there?
Yeah, I think that's the idea.
It's a sign, that's all it is.
Why is
Should be
there
a
traffic?
fountain there.
Where's the driver's side?
Oh, by UC Steel, and maybe the idea is to slow
So
people
you
down.
have
It has to do with.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's just a.
Okay, so people are kind of.
Oh, you're right.
It's not an intersection.
That's the cheapest circle I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty.
They put it up in stages, and there wasn't a sign on it the first night, and so I never saw it. Scared the hell out of me. So at least one of those tire marks is.
Jeff, can you explain why, I know you've already explained, but I still don't understand why there can't be a raised crosswalk on Gordon at 45th.
I think that with what we've proposed now are the curb extensions,
Yeah.
and there are multiple areas where the curb extensions are.
Right here, but why can't this crosswalk here also be raised?
Typically, we don't do raised crosswalks at intersections,
At stop.
called stop-controlled intersections. You could do a raised.
Because they're there to slow people down.
Right.
Oh, and people are already.
They're already.
They're already-
In theory, they're already stopping.
In theory. So is this, what about here?
Right, so you're gonna get the benefit of having a narrowing, which is almost a level 4 treatment here, where you're
There's gonna be
pinching on both
crosswalks.
sides.
Okay.
So that's gonna act as a traffic calming treatment, just by doing these curb extensions here.
And I know one of the concerns here is there's a visibility problem with cars coming out, not being able to see cross traffic here. How is that gonna be addressed with, like, where is the stop line gonna be for cars?
So the advanced stop bar is noted here, so you'll be able to.
Will they be able to see around the building, like what will their sight line be?
Other cars are just going through, if they could be stopped.
Is there any way to use whatever redesign you're doing to improve sight lines?
It's gonna be better than existing because
It'll be farther
you,
out.
this
I don't know.
requires people not to park, so you're daylighting the turns.
Okay.
Right now, with just red curb, people can still violate that. The curb extension,
So
They won't be
it
able to-
physically blocks people and it opens the daylight setup, so you will get that.
And trucks will be able to negotiate this?
Yeah, these have been designed so the trucks and fire trucks can make these turns.
It's gonna have to make the ways out, so people won't be routed there.
they might not avoid it at certain times of day.
What are you guys thinking over there? Yeah. I'm curious what you're.
Oh, we're talking about the area near the school.
And volume of cars.
Whether they continue to be allowed cars cutting straight through. when
Yeah,
they're
only
stopping
half
at the
that
school,
street is,
And then,
Emeryville.
and then using more extreme treatments to stop those cars from going through and just mediate for the school traffic.
Actually, the whole street is open, it's only the sidewalk that's Emeryville.
Really?
But we don't really have numbers on that.
Center line.
But I assume that there were a lot of cars coming through before, a lot of them probably still are, even with the extra traffic there. And that would be the first thing to work on in order to keep the traffic counts down and to make it safer for the school.
You should get the input of the school too on it.
That's on 53rd.
I was almost asking whether or not this should be brought as a city schools item.
Yeah. I think that would be needed too. What's the procedure for us getting it there?
We can put it as an agenda item here as a like formal request from the committee. We could, I guess, agendize it for February as a quick discussion, and then I could agendize it next year for state schools.
Okay.
It'd be good to get input from the parents on what they would like.
How many parents go to those meetings?
Oh, no parents go to state schools, like 2. I'll think through that and talk with Marcy about what's the best way to handle that.
Okay.
And also the timing for when these guys need the feedback, right?
Yeah.
So can you show us the little diagram down there? The two, so this is the option, so this basically has the same number of impediments, it's just some of them are raised crosswalks and not speed humps. You've replaced some speed humps with raised crosswalks.
Right, so let's just go back.
So Laura,
So option A,
two boards are different, that's option A, option B.
Oh,
Wanna see
okay.
crosswalks?
The board's not the same?
They're both different.
option A, I want to reiterate this. So option A, 3 new speed humps on 53rd, 4 new speed humps on 45th, and 1 new speed hump in addition to the interim on Horton Street.
Mhm.
Option B, this is the raised crosswalk option. Kind of a mix, actually. 2 new speed humps on 53rd and a raised crosswalk. 1 new speed hump on 45th and 3 raised crosswalks. And then you still get the same new speed hump on Horton Street. In addition to all of the curb extension on Horton Street would, that's universal, it's on both options here. So the locations we've selected are based on spacing. So you want to make sure that people don't go over them and then speed up and go over them, so they're spaced out enough. And also at locations that were identified in the bike plan that we think make sense, particularly around Spur Alley.
Is
as
that-
having-
Do you have to do input
that
from
cross-
Novartis on this one?
No input from Novartis on this design, I don't think, Kevin, unless,
That crosswalk on 45th is to the park, right, to the skateboard park? On
Yeah,
the
correct.
far east
correct,
there.
correct.
And why, if a raised crosswalk does the same thing that a speed hump does, so I'm thinking about 53rd again, why, in terms of slowing traffic and making it safer, lower speeds for all like pedestrians and bikes, why not always use raised crosswalks? Because then people can actually cross the street as well. So it serves both pedestrians and bikes.
Like what if you wanted one closer to ECCL, what if that speed hump that's in the middle there?
Exactly,
Were
yeah.
moved a little closer to ECCL and turned into a raised crosswalk, is that what you're?
Or even like that, or even just like leaving that same spacing, but instead of them being speed humps, having them both be raised crosswalks
Mm,
on
on
53rd.
53rd.
With a raised crosswalk, you remove parking. With speed humps, you retain parking. That's another trade-off just to consider as well.
Got it.
Well, except that we're recommending channelizing the speed hump, so that would remove parking
So
as
parking,
well.
if parking's out of the equation,
Then it doesn't really matter.
right, then it's just the experience of the bicycle boulevard. So again, it's like, you're making these kind of trade-offs right now of the experience of bicycling with speed humps, with the way that we've designed it for Emeryville. The bicyclist is not going up and over, up and over. It's not reducing their speed or their experience. With the raised crosswalk, they do have that bicycle traffic.
Isn't there a benefit to reducing bicycle speeds as well, and especially in 53rd, if you have a lot of kids crossing the street? I think,
It's not like they're uncomfortable to bicycle over there. Like, I understand
Yeah.
there's difficulty with the.
just with the
impermeable-
temporary ones,
Yeah,
I ride over them all the time.
The
in
raised
Oakland.
crosswalks are fine to bike over.
I don't know if I've ever biked over one of those, but speed humps are fine, I'm sure it will be fine.
So there is an existing speed hump right now.
Yeah,
And then we're adding as a westbound speed hump to slow the traffic that's not being impacted by the roundabout.
okay. So it's just in one direction?
It's just
So
in
that
one
would make
direction.
sense to, okay.
Correct. Otherwise, you need to, we could do something with that existing speed hump, maybe that could be turned into a raised crosswalk, but it's already functioning kind of.
Right.
That's open,
Yeah.
that's open speed hump though, we can't do that. That's open speed hump on 53rd.
Okay, so that's sort of out of, that's that gray line.
I think,
Yeah.
I think the other two proposed speed humps though that are shown there, like there isn't really a reason for a crosswalk to be near those spots, right? There's no, like just looking at the map, it doesn't look like there's even any businesses
It's
or
really
anything
large.
crossing.
Yeah, on 45th or 53rd?
The, on 53rd, like there aren't really things to cross to that you couldn't use a different, that you wouldn't already have a crosswalk in like the Emery Bay Drive.
You
stop.
generally wouldn't want to introduce a mid-block crossing where you have a reasonably close all-stop intersection. It's, you know, especially for a children's facility.
Got it.
So
All right.
So can I make a motion to suggest option B over option A?
Which is the raised crosswalk.
Which is the raised crosswalk.
Do a second from Celeste. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to recommend concept option B with a mix of raised crosswalks and proposed speed humps. I want to open up for discussion.
Was it a second?
Yes, that was from Celeste.
Oh, sorry, okay, sorry.
It's okay. All right, so it sounds like we're ready to vote on that. So all those in favor of recommending concept option B for the design, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
So it's everybody.
Yes. All right. So no nays, no abstentions. We're back to normal.
No, that's it. Basically, with that vote, that kind of summarizes exactly the input that we need. Thank you for your time. Appreciate giving me a little more time to interact with you
I
guys.
just want to, can I make one final, I won't belabor the point because I've already said it, but I really don't like the traffic light at 45th. Because I think it's very unfriendly to pedestrians because it makes them wait, and right now it's a four-way stop and they don't have to wait. So I just want to say whatever can be done to make that more pedestrian friendly.
45th and what?
45th and Hollis, they want to turn it, that was part of the EIR, which supposedly is a pedestrian amenity, and Ryan and I disagree on this. I think he thinks the light is safer for pedestrians, but I think it is inconvenient for pedestrians and leaves people to cross against the light.
I agree.
It might change once the development is there.
One-way stop is
Once the
better.
lights in,
I would
that'll
just
be it.
really encourage
Means they're gonna
everybody
get
to.
that green light, they're gonna be coming down Hollis or up Hollis at 35.
Yeah, and right now, everybody has to stop there, so it's a traffic calming that we're losing on Hollis.
Yeah, there should be more of
We'd be
those.
happy to not do it.
I know, it's the city that we're really talking to there, I know, it's not you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
All right, best of luck.
Yeah, it really.
All right, so we're gonna move
I
on.
wrote comments to the AIR and projected it, I don't think it's a pet friendly thing, I think it's just a whole traffic.
Not around that entire discussion was throwing me off so hard, I had to check with Ryan, make sure I was appropriate.
But Ryan, is showing that lights are safer for pedestrians, so I don't want to, I'm certainly not.
Yeah, but it comes to what is.
Yeah, we got that light, you should sit in the river for.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And it's not better than.
But was there anything there before? Was there something? See, that's the thing, we're going from the four-way stop to a light, and yes, people run stop signs.
Tiffany has one lights too.
I saw someone on a red light yesterday, people weren't safe. And they will do anything.
Gotta go shopping.
Right, we have to go shopping. I was in a crosswalk yesterday, and someone, I was right there, and someone stopped, and just pulled off right in front of us. But I personally think that the light, when there's a light, people cross against the light. They don't know if it's a turn signal, and when there's a stop sign, it's always my turn if I'm a pedestrian. So pedestrians first, and that's my objection. I like that it's a pedestrian first.
Okay.
So what if we push for like get on the north side instead of pedestrians, and then instead of it would only go right.
There we go.
The secret
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's
I just think, we have to have a brain pedestrians, we have to have sensors so they don't, or we have to
Technically,
be on a
yes.
time.
We do own
So
the
they don't
bridge, so
have people either forget or
There's some
they
things we
make
can do.
working.
All right, so we're gonna continue on to item 5.2, the 40th Street design.
I miss what they do.
Oh, good one.
Thank you. All right. We're gonna give Brian the floor now.
Okay, so, talked to you guys last month about 40th Street Bridge design. That's gonna be a part of the 2017-18 pavement rehab preventive maintenance project, phase 1 of that project. You guys had a few comments of things that you'd like to see in the design, so I've revised a little bit of the design. I'm here to show you those changes. I know there's a few members that weren't here last month, so I'm gonna go quickly over my presentation from last month. Part of the project originally, well, first, we're expecting to construct this one in May 2018 at the end of the wet weather season. And then, so this project's going to incorporate a lot of elements from the bike and ped plan. It's going to improve the on-road sections of the Bay Bike Trail on the Shellmount Street and the connections to there. It will improve the bicycle movements and travel at the Shellmount Christie intersection. It will put in a bike box coming from the Bay Street Plaza. It will extend the left turn green zone from Shellmount Street to the Christie Class 1 path. Also, it's going to provide safe path of travel into the left turn lane with green sharrows right there on Shellmount Street onto that dedicated left turn lane. We're going to utilize green conflict stripes whenever there's cars entering the bike lane. We're going to install high visibility zebra style crosswalks at all pedestrian crossings that are going to be repaved. So when we're done with this, we hope to increase the safety on all our transportation network greatly. So originally we're doing this project, we're gonna stop the paving at this is IKEA right here, this is Shell Mound, we're looking from north to south. We were gonna stop right here at the edge of the bridge deck with our paving project. And when we were looking at the existing striping on the bridge and kind of trying to match up our new striping on Shell Mound to that, it was very difficult to make them merge together. So we saw it as a great opportunity to just improve the striping on the 4th Street Bridge and redo it. So out there.
Can I just ask, what was the problem with matching up the striping? I don't understand what.
Well, we are going to be extending the length or the width of. Oh, so I don't have a pointer.
The bike lane?
Let's see. Yeah.
It's going to be wider?
I do have the pointer here. Let's see if this works. Does that work? Okay, there we go. Okay, so right here, the width of the bike lanes are going to increase. We're going to squeeze down these lanes a little bit. And if we were to transition onto here from what we were showing on here, it just was not matching up too well. It was tight transition margin lengths and all that.
And
Yeah.
so the current bike lane width is 5 feet, and you're going to make it
6 feet. Yeah.
on both sides.
Yeah.
Only on one side, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's on both
And
sides.
then we're gonna repave all that. And right now, if you go out there, it's 9 feet of striping, and it kind of goes 9 feet all the way to here, and then just drops off. And to do it properly, you should actually kind of transition, taper it. And there's no clean way to really do it. We could kind of just put back what was there if we were gonna do it. So moving on, this is the existing striping configuration. So we have, up here it does increase to 6 feet bike lanes, down to mediums it's down to 5. The buffer is at 9 feet right here, the travel lane is 14 feet, another 9-foot buffer and a 6-foot bike lane. So while we're out there measuring it, the bot dots that are out here that designate the buffer, they're very hard to maintain. They become low visibility over time. Drivers end up using this lane as another travel lane when they make passes, so they make this dangerous movement where they're going towards the bike lane to get around cars, and they're usually doing that pretty quickly. So we just saw generally just unsafe speeds around the curve, a large speed differential between the vehicles themselves and the bicyclists. Bicyclists are struggling to get up that hill, and you have this car zooming right by them. So we'd like to prevent that. This also goes with our general plan goals and policies. We're trying to create safe, efficient, comprehensive, and integrated transit system that allows for a reduction in automobile dependence on this roadway. We're also trying to create a multifunctional street system that ensures safe and efficient movement of people, goods, and services. And this would also support a high quality life and economic vitality. This is also part of our city's complete streets policy, enables safe, attractive, and comfortable access and travel for all users. That's bike, peds, transit users, and the vehicle users as well. So this roadway, this part of the bridge right here, as you can see, is designated in our general plan as a transit street. All our major corridors through the city, Powell Street, Shellmount Street, 40th Street, and San Pablo are all transit corridors that have heavy usage from transit vehicles. Another thing to note is that this roadway is in the regional retail access area. So where a lot of shops, a lot of pedestrians are out there walking around. It's also in our pedestrian priority zone. But the other thing is there's all these shops here. We need to be able to still deliver goods throughout this area and be able to accommodate for the truck traffic that will come from these big box stores. As we were looking at this stretch, there's a high frequency of collisions at this median over near IKEA, at the intersection of Hubbard and the Target entrance on 40th Street, mostly at the Target entrance. Actually, none right there at Hubbard. They're all on this side. And then a lot of instances at the Horton Street intersection. So here's what we're proposing. You guys can see on the documents a little bit cleaner version of this. The presentation has an older version. But we're proposing a 6-foot bike lane, a 3-foot buffer lane, a 3-foot buffer, a 13-foot transit-only lane. We're going to make that a full-time transit-only, bus-only lane. The eastbound direction lane will be 12 feet and the westbound direction will be 13 feet. If you see, the buses will be traveling this way in a 13-foot lane and traveling this way in a 13-foot lane. We like to remain 13 feet for their use. 3-foot buffer lane and a 6-foot bike lane. So one of the comments last month was flexible bollards are spaced too far apart. We're proposing to put them at 20 feet now. NACDO recommends 10 to 30 feet. The 10 feet spacing is actually in like a more urban area where there's a lot of parking and stuff, so cars can't get in them. Right here we don't have any parking. The speeds on the roadway is 30-mile-an-hour road. 20 feet it should be sufficient to do its job keeping cars out of that area. We're going to make the bus-only lane 24/7. It will be full-time operation of bus-only lane as shown on our exhibit, as you guys can see. Further, we're going to be trying to slow down traffic by using these in-lane rumble strips. So you can see those at 3 different points along this stretch on the exhibit. One will be on each side as they come up the hill or coming down the hill, and then one is right at the curve, kind of. We'll also be putting in some curve warning signs. We're going to advise people to go on this roadway at 20 miles per hour. Currently, it has a 25-mile-an-hour sign, but we'll drop that down to 20 as the advisory speed. We'll also be putting chevrons for the curve around there, just to kind of warn people of a curve, so that we don't get anybody going straight, not expecting a curve.
Ryan, one clarifying question. Is that just a physical sign like that, or is it going to show their speed limit, their speed?
It's going to be a physical sign like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No electronics.
Yeah, no electronics.
Where's the third rumble strip? I only see 2 on here.
It's kind of split up, so if you go from the top right corner, that connects to the bottom left corner.
All right, yes. So that's by IKEA.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's by Target.
Yeah.
That's by Target.
The other thing that we're going to be doing is doing a green conflict zone at the Target driveway. If I go back to that, I guess I can just go to the next slide. But when we did the collision diagram for this area, most of the instances are these green dots right here are bicyclist to vehicle accidents, and we'd like to really focus on this and get this going, create a safer situation. So we're going to be doing green conflict zone leading into that intersection. At the same time, Target is putting a proposal to change out the internal circulation in their driveway or in their parking lot. And at the same time, they're going to make a pedestrian-friendly entrance at the Target entrance. So in front of that pedestrian-friendly driveway, we're going to be putting a conflict zone for the bicyclists coming through there. So as cars cross in that zone, they're aware the bikes are there. Another area of high frequency of collisions with bikes was also at the Port Street intersection, making this right turn movement with bicyclists going straight. So we're going to put some conflict striping to kind of further get the attention of drivers that there's bicyclists here. And then even further, we're going to be putting a lot of signs, one sign in the median right here for the left turners, making, so for turning vehicles, you have to yield to bikes and peds. We'll also be putting another one of these signs for the right turn into the Target driveway, so we'll put it about right here. And this project, when we do it, we're going to make it a pilot project for the striping on the bridge. So this project is going to be studied prior to installation. We're going to get counts for all modes of travel, vehicle speeds, do collision history, and with all that data, we can really do a before and after study and really see how this improved on the corridor. So that's where we're at with the design, and we'd like to hear your feedback on this project.
What's the time period for the pilot project?
It'd be probably a 1-year pilot project status.
It's starting
Yeah, starting once it's constructed and open for traffic. So
How was the study before?
Oh, the before? We've already been collecting a lot of data. We actually have volumes for this whole area from another project. So we have a lot of before data already, and we have all the collision history already. What we would get is just the turning, or the vehicle counts, or the types of vehicles, the vehicle classification counts. So seeing how many buses, how many bicyclists, how many cars, how many peds are walking through this. We haven't had any counts like that.
But would it begin right away?
Yeah, that would happen before we actually implement the project. Yeah.
When you come over the 40th Street Bridge and you want to turn left on Horton, there's only pocket for one car there and it backs up. So I think you need a couple more spaces there for the left turn onto Horton from 40th Street.
Except we don't want cars to turn onto Horton Street because it's a bicycle boulevard.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, but so you don't want them there, so it just backs the traffic up. That's not a better idea.
I like it better.
Right now, we don't have any plans to modify the median to make a bigger left turn lane, but, and really with how things are looking, we probably wouldn't, we don't want to send traffic down that way.
Yeah, be room for what, 2 or 3 cars in max.
Yeah.
I have a question about the bus only lane. Is it going to be, like in San Francisco, when they do that, they paint it red?
Yeah.
And they put, like, I think it says bus, like they have white lettering and stuff, so it's pretty clear to cars that they can't drive in it?
Yeah, so right now, San Francisco actually has an experimental project status with Caltrans to have that red paint on the ground. And we've seen their report. It looks like it's effective and it's good.
It is.
It hasn't been fully approved, but I think it's going to be very soon approved and put in the
So this
Caltrans manual.
This would be a lane with no red paint?
This would not be, for the first year, for the pilot status, would not, but if we see good things from that first year, we're gonna probably paint it red, so.
So I guess my question is, right now, there's bumps. If you get it in that 9-foot buffer, you're bumping, and I agree that it's really hard to see, especially at night. The reflective is worn off, you know, whatever it was that made those bumps visible is worn off. It's really hard to tell where they end. So I do think that needs to be addressed, but you're about to put 2 car travel lanes that cars are gonna go in. If they go over the bumps, they're gonna go in the bus lane. It's not like there's gonna be wall-to-wall buses keeping cars out of that lane.
One thing we could
I don't
do is,
understand how that would work.
back to this.
You're talking about enforcement.
Well, yeah, but that's not gonna happen. I mean,
Oh,
So-
actually, you answered this for me before. Talking about the AC Transit has the camera equipment, and Emory does as well.
Yeah, so AC Transit is, there's a few transit operators that have been approved to have a front-facing camera and for that type of thing, for enforcing.
So
AC
what happens
Transit is
if
one
they-
of those providers, but they haven't had them installed yet, though. They haven't done it yet, so.
well, and even if they take a picture, what's gonna happen? Is the car gonna get a ticket? I mean.
Yeah, that's how it works in San Francisco right now, so.
Like a red light camera ticket.
Yeah.
People get tickets for riding in the bus lane, yeah.
Yeah,
So they're
Muni
not
takes
supposed to.
pictures of you and sends people notices.
Wow.
But is it gonna, I mean, we got rid of the red light camera because it cost the city too much money. I'm just not.
This wouldn't have anything to do with us,
With the
actually.
city.
It would be on
Well,
AC Transit taking the photo and processing all the ticket.
Well, I guess my question is, how often will there be a bus going? I mean, in my experience, the bus frequency in Emeryville is not super high. So if there's a bus every, say, 15 minutes, then for that interim time, there's gonna be 300 cars.
There's
going.
multiple-
3 bus
multiple-
lines
More
there.
than that.
Yeah.
Is it?
3 bus lines
There are
go every 5
running
minutes.
that
Yeah.
area.
They run across the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's multiple providers, AC Transit and Emery-Go-Round. Emery-Go-Round has multiple routes that use this. 40th Street, they have the one that goes out to the marina, that comes through there. They have the ones that go up Christie and all that, come back down. AC Transit has quite a few, I think 4 or 5 lines that use 40th Street, so,
There are a lot.
yeah.
But does the F go the other way on 40th Street? I know the F goes
It
out
goes
to the
both
bridge.
ways.
It goes both ways on 40th Street? Okay.
Yeah, Diana, do you remember from your observations or the intern observations how frequent they were?
I had that answer,
Yeah.
but I don't remember it.
It's 5 minutes or under.
Yeah,
That's
you
what's
have
there,
to
1 hour,
bus, there's a
57,
bus stop there for
15 minutes.
around along that street, and there's a stream of AC Transit buses going
Yeah.
by, so it really is pretty frequent.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to say, like, that we don't anywhere in the Bay Area really have a stream of buses, maybe Market Street in San Francisco. I mean, I was in Edinburgh last year, and you look and there's like almost no traffic but buses. Like, that's just it, because they have a bazillion bus lines in downtown Edinburgh that converge, and maybe downtown Oakland is like that because all the bus lines converge on Broadway there, but nowhere else in the Bay Area do we really have that, like, density of buses that blocks out all other traffic. I guess what I want to know, I like the rumble strips. I just want to say, I think the rumble strips, I think some additions that have been made are really good. The rumble strips are a great idea, reducing the speed to 20. But, you know, what is Emeryville going to do when the first person gets flattened by some yabo who's taking that curve too fast? And now there isn't a 9-foot buffer, now there's 2 lanes of traffic, and somebody just smacks right into a bicyclist or a pedestrian.
But there's no private vehicles next to the bike lane going south and east.
I guess what I'm hearing is that we're concerned that without red paint, without sort of a clear way of demarcating that it is the bus only lane, that cars will use it as a
buses.
In San Francisco, it's bus and taxi.
But so what I found is like San Francisco on Market Street also did bus only, like just with white letters, and it did not, like, I saw car after car, and the red paint really makes a difference.
Well, and I also, I guess my question, I guess it would be the eastbound where there would be more of a chance of a collision because of the way the curve, that's where people are going to lose it on the curve, not so much westbound. Although I find the westbound traffic scarier than the eastbound, I don't know why. But I guess, I'm just wondering if there's another way to do this. And where is the impetus for this coming from? And I understand that that maybe the way it's done right now needs to be redone. But we have a piece of bicycle infrastructure that has worked for, I don't know how many years, 10 years. Could we make what's there better rather than taking away? I know there's a bus travel issue.
So the main issue and one of the main things with the 9-foot buffer, it's for people driving through there and they have to go through 9 feet and get there. If you look at it in the eastbound direction, it's now 13 feet plus another 3 feet that they have to go through before they reach there. There would be also vertical separations there. There's also going to be multiple RPMs on the ground that they'll hit, bumps that they'll be able to hit. So I'd argue that eastbound direction is going to be safer. The westbound direction, they're going to be driving closer to the bicyclists, yes, but they're not going to be heading towards the bicyclists at the curb. They're going to be heading in the opposite direction. So the prior installation of 9-foot buffers, it's not a standard buffer length or width. NACDO does not recommend anything close to that. You don't want something like that because it gets confused as a travel lane, and that's what we see every day. If you go out there, you go out there 5 minutes, you'll see multiple cars doing it. So.
Well, I have to say that I've been riding over it recently, and I like them as a bicyclist. It really adds to my feeling of safety. And it looks like the buffer goes away as soon as, it goes away much, much sooner in this than it does in the current configuration. Is that correct? Because in the current configuration, the buffer comes down to pretty close to IKEA, right? Before it drops in.
It looks like in the drawing here, the buffer ends.
It ends.
It ends right at the top, as soon as the bridge.
So if you look
shoots
at the
around.
exhibit, where the rumble strip, it's about right there, I think, is where
Is where it drops
ends,
off
and
now?
it drops off just
Okay, so
immediately.
it's-
Yeah.
Do the bullards in there too?
What's up?
The bullards, will they end at where the buffer ends?
They'll end probably in the area where it kind of tapers in, so right about there. Yeah.
Like right where the buffers end?
Yeah, kind of. If you look in the westbound direction, there's that area where it says concrete, where the edge of the bridge deck is. So we'll go a little bit past that.
I see.
Yeah.
So could this be, I mean, I guess I feel like I'm just on the losing side here because I really like what's there now, and I do agree it needs improvements, and I would like to see it improved, and I feel like this is going to be a huge detriment to the safety of bicyclists. I like a lot of this project. I like the stuff at the Target entrance. I think that's fantastic. I think the rumble strips and the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit are a great idea. I just think this is, I think 20 feet bollards are not enough. I think 3 feet is not enough. I mean, what I want, honestly, is a big armor plating between me. I want Jersey barriers between me and the cars. Because I feel like it's a very.
How about a separated two-way?
Let's let her finish, and Celeste has something to say.
I guess I would just like, if I'm not gonna have that 9 feet, I want something that's much more solid between me and the cars, because cars go way too fast there, and hopefully all of this stuff will help that, and it won't be such a ridiculous high-speed area. But until that's proven, bicyclists are basically guinea pigs in this new situation where we don't have that same protection. And I would specifically say, I really don't like where the bollards and the buffer ends, and I think it should go farther, and I see that the median that part of the reason that is the median width, and maybe the median can narrow down sooner, to accommodate the bollards and the bufferings going all the way to that rumble strip.
I want to give everyone a chance to comment, and so we have Celeste and then David after Celeste.
So I'd like to say that the existing configuration doesn't work for transit, and because of that, it doesn't work for pedestrians, because we rely on transit. And at times, the problem is really in eastbound more than in westbound. Westbound doesn't really back up much, but eastbound does back up. And during certain times, especially during the holidays, it's absolute gridlock. And so having a system which makes it more convenient to ride transit than it does to drive your own car is something we should really be doing everywhere, actually. And as we increase the traffic through that area, we again want to move to get people into transit by making it more convenient. Right now, there are times when it's more convenient for me to take my car because I can drive up Powell Street when I'm going eastbound than it is for me to take transit because all the transit goes up 40th Street. And that's not right, you know. And we need to have a way that people can actually go eastbound on that street without having a car. And right now, there are times when it's a gridlock that it's going to take a very long time to get through.
Do you think this is going to solve it, Celeste? Because I just want to.
I think the bus-only lane, the bus-only lane will make a big difference. I think there'll be times, especially during the holidays, where it doesn't matter how red the paint is, there's going to be problems enforcing it. But I think it will improve it. It's certainly worth a try.
After David, we'll have Tom. Please.
Dave Campbell with Bike-to-Stay. I want to say I really like this design. I think you've improved it a lot. And so there's a lot here I feel that I can give you credit for. A couple of things to improve it. I think you've got to paint the bus lane red from the get-go. If anything, scrape it out if you don't need it. To put it in there because you're going to need it. And I think for the reasons you just said, it's going to have to be red from the get-go to make it work. So I hope you can do that from the start. I do like the idea of putting in bus lanes. Even though this may not be the #1 priority, highest urgency location, we have to start doing this. If this is an opportunity, even though it's not the best opportunity, it's still a good opportunity to get it in there and start reminding people you're going to have better options. And then as to Laura's concerns, which I totally hear, we have the option to put a curb in. And we have low-cost options to put a curb in. Let's do that. Alameda just did it on the Clement Street. It's a good example, low cost. It's the flex post and basically the curb stops you see in a parking lot to prevent the car from hitting the sidewalk. And it works. And those curb stops are going to prevent every motorist who chooses to cut the corner to stop cutting the corner. And it's just going to be sort of the distracting things that may cut and hit them, but they're going to hit them and they're not going to hit the bicycles. And I think that leaves you a 6-foot bikeway with, 3-foot buffer with a solid curb there. I think it's a very solid type design. And I think would address.
You put the curb on the outside of the buffer so that street sweeping can get inside? Or?
That's a design detail someone else can work on. And then I also agree the buffer can extend further around towards IKEA. You just sort of made this so smoothly gradual. I think it's a choice and not something you had to do that.
We do have the highway design manual. We got to design the curb to a certain radius, so it is based on the speeds of the roadway and the curb.
Well, now the speeds are 20, so you don't need to do that anymore. Yeah. And you can certainly probably extend that buffer really close to where this gray median starts.
The 20 mile per hour is still an advisory speed. It's not a speed limit that we can set until the speeds do get down to the 85th percentile. We feel with these improvements that we make, we will get some speeds that get lower, but we don't know where we're at right now to get them down to 20.
I'm not convinced. I still think you can extend that buffer all the way around towards where the gray median is, even given what you just said. And then I really applaud you for doing a before and after study. We need a lot more of that solid data to inform us and help us make better decisions going forward.
Thank you, Dave. We'll go to Tom and then Evan.
So just to get throw a real wrench in it, has anybody considered a two-way bike, separated bike path on the inside of the curve? That's a really big, long, it's got to be what, 1,500 to 2,000 feet up and around from Hubbard. And Hubbard probably doesn't get used very much at all. a big, separated, clean, two-way on the inside of this whole thing.
How do you transition
Maybe
from
all the
across
way
the
to
street
where
though?
the Bay Bridge thing is here. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
that's the way to
it's-
do things in the future here.
It's definitely something
Just a
that
thought.
we've looked at, yeah, as a thought.
I mean, it looks like there's enough room.
Yeah, the big roadblock is the medians in each side, so. if we
The
can-
median down here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing, those medians, talking about just the safety of the corridor, right now, this paving project's gonna take care of like a big safety problem that's going on right now. I don't know if you guys have driven through this stretch. The median on the, right near the IKEA entrance has, the palm tree roots are uprooting the pavement, so they're lifting big time right now, so it's of the utmost importance we get this taken care of in spring. Because right now, it really jars drivers and actually kind of pushes them towards the bike lane as it stands right now today. So
Is that palm tree gonna come out?
the palm tree's not going to come out, but we're really going to be cutting back those roots when we go in there and pave it, repave that
And
section.
then is the median wider than it exists, or
What's that, sir?
is the median gonna be wider than what it is?
The median's not going to get rebuilt.
Oh.
No, it's just the pavement will get redone right there.
I want to second what Dave said. I really appreciate that. Also, I'm just, I guess two comments. One is if there were a way to make that median near IKEA narrower, then there would be space for buffers all the way for cyclists. And then I guess my other question is at the intersection of Horton, at 40th and Horton, would a bike box improve safety there as well for bikes, since a lot of those bikes are getting swiped in right turns, so that they're actually in front of traffic and cars can actually see them there.
Yeah, it's not typical to put a bike box into a roadway of this much traffic volume and the speeds that are there. But it something we can consider, look at.
There's a bike box on the corner of Hopi and Market in San Francisco.
Yeah,
And I
that's
would
pretty,
argue that
but the
rate of traffic
speeds
there
aren't
is-
very low.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very low speeds
So is
through
the bike
the
box-
city.
Is the bike box done where there's bike lanes and then the bike box, or is it when there's sharrows?
It's
Or is it
in front of the traffic, so
Yeah.
it's almost like an L shape.
So it
Yeah.
is done in conjunction with the bike lane?
Yeah.
And are those accidents at 40th happening from people going straight and getting right hooked, or is it people who are going across on Horton and getting hit by doing that?
Most of them were the right hook in the intersection.
they were
like
on
they're
40th?
going straight on 40th and the car turns right in front of them.
Okay.
You did mention a bike box somewhere in your presentation, but I don't see it anywhere here in the.
Yeah, it's part of the whole paving project. It's something I presented probably last summer actually now. But we're going to be putting in a bike box on the left turn coming out of Bay Street. I can just pull up the area real quick.
Yeah, it's up
If
at
we have
Christie,
time, you guys
right?
are
It's
okay
up
with
at
that?
Christie.
We're way over.
We're well over time on this one.
Yeah. So, well, basically, it's the westbound movement out of the top of Bay Street onto Showmount Street. There'll be a bike box there to get on.
I'm not visually seeing
Okay,
it, sorry.
sorry.
While we're waiting for you to pull it up, we have.
I'd like to ask just a couple
Yeah.
of legal hard engineering questions so that I can best capture what the recommendations are that are possible for this. Is it legal for us to paint it red right now?
It's not illegal, but we have to go under experimental project status with Caltrans. So
And what
it's-
does that require from the city?
It requires us to do a lengthier study and report and get a request from Caltrans and get the buyout from them.
And that might
prior.
not happen in time to do this spring?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So ideally, we would do this for a year as a pilot project, and if it's working and everyone's liking the configuration, because this configuration could move after the pilot year, and then at that point, we can do the red paint for the transit only, and at that time, we expect Caltrans to actually adopt it from San Francisco's study, so.
Okay, but as of now, what's the likelihood of if we try to do the experimental status and that pushing back the spring? Is it absolutely possible for us to get experimental status before spring?
Yeah, it would not happen that
Do
quickly.
you know that Berkeley just put in a red bus line and they're not experimenting, they just did it.
Did they? Yeah.
Where was that? Bancroft, south edge of UC
Okay,
Berkeley
continuing with
campus.
my questions, the curb costs, have you looked at the curb costs versus the bollards?
We didn't look at the cost, it was a safety factor. So right here, we have a curve, or back on your exhibit, we have a curve that has little to no slope, like side cross slope. To put a curve right there, it's asking for a rollover. We've actually had a few rollover instances documented in our collision history on this stretch, and putting a curve there, it's not advisable.
Where are you talking about a curve? On the bike lane, the thing that Dave suggested?
A curve?
Yeah, the like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
So that would make a car flip over rather than hit a bicyclist? I mean, like, what's the option?
They would flip over
I don't-
onto the bicyclist.
Well, the bicyclist might be out of
As
his
a
way by the time the car flips over.
Right.
I don't care if the
Yeah.
bicyclist is out of the way. Then the cars screw themselves.
Yeah, because I would say the other option is for the car to run straight into the bike and maybe flip over on there is still a curb, it's just farther over.
Yes,
Because there's a curb, there's a crosswalk there, I mean, a raised
Right.
sidewalk.
It would be the same height then as like the current edge curve that we already have, right?
That's true.
So how does that decrease it?
Wait, on let me go back. So let me
So
see what you're saying.
we're talking in where this buffer zone is, instead of flexible bollards, what I'm hearing is there's a desire to look at doing the physical barrier, a 6-inch curve like it's been done on Clement Street, which I'm sure you've heard from me before.
Yeah, so on the outside curve, there is no sidewalk on that end. There is no
Right,
curb at all. It's
that's
just,
true.
it's wall.
Mhm.
And then it's on the inside, you don't really risk hitting that with the turning movement. But there is a 6-inch curve there, yes. And that's, I don't know if that's what they hit when they rolled over, but we've had 2 or 3 rollovers on the bridge.
But
Yeah.
would a rollover be less safe than running into a cyclist?
It's hard to put weight to that, you know?
One thing is, the cars are right next to this proposed curb, rather than, 9 feet from the edge, so it would be a lot
The cars
more,
are
not
also
someone
much
who's.
closer to the bicyclists.
Hmm?
The cars are also much closer to the bicyclists, is the whole concern that we're capturing.
What I'm saying is, what percentage of the cars that might hit that curb were also gonna go 9 more feet to the right, I think is a very small, number comparatively. I think you're gonna get a lot more issues with that curb right next to the travel lane.
Well, wouldn't it be right next to the
It's a
bicycle
13-foot
lane,
trail.
not next to the bus lane?
It'd be on the outside of the buffer.
Would be within the buffer, but toward the outer edge.
Yeah.
I mean, I just find the likelihood of causing a bus to flip over to be low, a 6-inch curve.
Yeah, for eastbound, it would be buses that would be in danger of hitting this curve, not.
So maybe if we could like talk more about the
Okay.
actual safety of that, because I think,
Okay.
And that's what I'm hearing too, is that we're really interested in seeing something that separates us from the vehicles, whether it be a bus or a car. This is a trade-off, we have that big buffer that makes us feel a bit safer, and we're losing that, and so we'd like to have something that makes us feel safe still.
Yeah.
And
I'll even make a motion.
Or, yeah, yes, we can make a motion, but I also want to go back to Hubbard Street before we end this, so we can move that.
And then Jacqueline has something to.
Street,
Hubbard Street?
yes.
I have a
Hubbard
question
Street,
about that.
can we go back to the slide that you had, Ryan, about the pedestrian, yield for pedestrians and bicyclists? Yeah. So, can you describe to us where that sign would be in this intersection and how it would increase safety for bicyclists and pedestrians?
So one would be right here in the median, facing this left turn vehicle.
We're not
No,
seeing
no,
that.
no.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Oh, my laser arm. Okay, there we go. See that right? All right, so one would be right here on the median nose for this left turn lane right here, facing them. The other one would be right here, placed for the right turners going into this intersection. This was the problem areas that we had, only on this side. So as you can see from the, I do have it on this flash drive. If I could show you guys the whole collision history diagram again. But we haven't had any instances here except for this, I believe this was a merging accident right here. But there's been no conflicts with peds or bikes on this side of the intersection.
Yeah.
Is it possible to put a sign for bikes? Because it's a steep hill there and it's easy to come down really fast, and if you don't know that you're about to enter a conflict zone, I could see people just jetting down there and not using enough caution on a bicycle. I don't know if there's any kind of signage that would warn a bike driveway ahead, slow down kind of thing.
My concern with this is that it's really not addressing the real problem here. People are crossing there, and that's saying, hey, watch out for them, but not really making a crosswalk for them. So that's my biggest concern with that treatment. And no matter.
Yeah, crosswalk across 40th.
Yes.
And what basically is Hubbard's, yeah.
Yes, and that's like every time I pass there, somebody's crossing that street and stuck in the middle, the median. And so this is a missed opportunity if we don't make some type of treatment there for pedestrians. And I understand the hesitation, but I think that this is just not really addressing the real problem there.
So if you go to the section where Hubbard's at, it's actually very tightly spaced to Horton Street. It's 300 feet. So we actually would advise pedestrians with tightly spaced intersection right here, 300 feet away, to use this crosswalk over here on Horton Street.
They're not gonna
to
do
use
it.
this.
No one's gonna walk over
But,
there.
So what
there is.
you're doing right now isn't showing up there.
Oh.
I don't argue
Sorry
with
about
300
that.
feet being tightly
You're not
spaced. I
taking
think
it.
that's a kind of long way for a pedestrian walk.
And I mean, like, when you're walking there, would you walk to Horton and just to get back onto Hubbard?
No.
No.
So I think that designing for the future, we have to think about the routes that pedestrians are gonna take, and keep that in.
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about, was this
Yeah, like
intersection
in
at
5
Hubbard
years.
to 40th Street is 300 feet, and we'd advise them to go down this way. The other thing
But it's
is,
600 feet, Ryan, if you have to walk all the way around. That's a long way.
I mean, whatever you would advise them, they aren't going to do it. Like,
Yeah.
pedestrians are just going to cross and
Well,
stop in the median
Yeah,
and
and
crossing
you're not
it.
really
Yeah.
advising anybody
Yeah.
just standing there when they're
Yeah.
walking.
It's a long walk. It's a
They're
long
gonna do
walk.
it.
and then the other thing is that there is an unofficial dirt path down this little area, down to Halleck Street, and you can walk underneath the Showmount Street Bridge, and you're actually on the side of the Target area, so.
That's the
But
best way to go.
Yeah.
That route doesn't take me to Hubbard, like the unofficial dirt path is actually shrubbery. And so there's not really a safe way for me to walk through there. If I go under the bridge, sure, but I'm really trying to get to the other side of Hubbard, not to the back street.
Wait, so you're trying to get from where to where?
The other side of 40.
From the Target parking lot to Sherwin-Williams, which is gonna be a huge residential area.
Right.
Could there be a raised crosswalk there?
We go down Halleck there.
Yeah.
I like
It's,
that.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's not advisable to put in a crosswalk over 4 lanes of traffic without putting in another traffic signal here. It just, the safety.
So 5 years from now,
benefits,
there'll be a
yeah.
light there.
There could be, yeah, and that
Put in
might be the way it gets
crosswalks
done.
and
Make it my
encourages
prediction.
people to
How about a
walk.
hawk?
A hawk signal
There's no sidewalk on Hubbard there, on
on,
either side of the street. On
That's
the other
right,
side.
there is no
That's on
sidewalk
our
on
wish
this way.
list.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
There's no sidewalk anywhere there.
No, we're seeing a huge need for pedestrian treatments.
Yeah,
Seeing
yeah,
parts
yeah.
of solutions for it.
yeah. It's something we can consider, but as part of this project, it's gonna be very costly to do, and may delay the whole project if we focus on this with this implementation.
So what you guys are hoping to do is just pavement and paint,
Yeah.
right? And so
And
that's kind of where the reticence from
and-
trying a curb is, I would
Well,
think.
if the curb is concerned of flipping, what about non-flexible bollards?
Non-flexible bollards,
Yeah.
it's something we can consider. It'd be probably better to do like the barriers or the K-rail or something like that. That'd probably be the preferred.
What's K-rail?
It's like kind of the construction, kind of just a little,
Oh, what I would
yeah,
call
a
a
little
Jersey
three-
barrier.
Yeah, Jersey barrier, yeah.
Yeah,
What's
that's
the price on those again though?
That I don't have off the top of my head, yeah.
But there are temporary ones that are plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, just drive right through.
I do want to say that I wasn't here for the last meeting, and I think that this is much improved from the very first go-around that we heard. And I also want to say that while I understand the feeling that some folks may feel safer with that 9 foot, I really would agree that with staff that it does need to change from having that 9 foot barrier, because I've been a new driver, like tired from shopping at IKEA all day, driving around that turn, and I've gotten so confused.
Mhm.
Through my first 3 times going around that turn, I've been the driver accidentally going into the division.
It's
And
like he is full.
That's
No,
that's
but
more
I wa-
dangerous than anything else.
I want to
for the
say that
cyclists.
every few years they fix it, and when they fix it, it's very visible, and I agree, right now, I've driven over it, it's really hard to see. But when it's reflective, or if there are bollards around it, I mean, it can be made more visible. Right now, it's totally invisible, yeah.
All right, just want to go back to timing, because we have more agenda items that would take at least 30 minutes planned, and that would keep us here until 8, which is already too late. But we have to make a recommendation for this, because this is an action item.
I'd like to make a motion
All right. let's do
that
it.
they consider some sort of permanent curb, K-rail, bollard, whatever is necessary on the inside of that buffer, on both sides of it. Like a 3-foot buffer, something more serious than just flexible bollard and paint.
I'll
Could
second that.
or actually, could I just edit one word instead of consider? Could we suggest
I would say recommend.
or recommend?
Yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
Fine, I recommend it.
a physical
I'll
barrier.
second that now.
Yeah.
We got a second from Jacqueline. All right. So
Yeah,
this
I mean,
is-
you know, that's not for us to worry about cost, but to get something a little more safe if we can, is what we want.
But you gotta do
Questions?
temporary thing first before you put anything permanent in it,
That's
if you don't know
fine.
what
Do
you're
it.
doing.
The plastic.
the plastic.
I'd like to capture fully what you're saying, because this will probably come to council fairly soon. If you can, meaning, do you still support these alterations if we cannot for prohibitive financial or car flipping reasons?
No,
Yes.
did it for me.
Yes.
I do.
Do you want to,
Okay.
So that seems like it might be a second motion?
Yeah,
Or a
maybe
second.
or straw
I
poll,
mean, I can
maybe.
liaise, I saw this from liaison 4 to 2, so.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor, and you want to open up to discussion?
Has it been seconded?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jacqueline.
I mean, I think it could save lives. I'm strongly for some sort of permanent or quasi-permanent, inflexible, or inflexible barrier. Or whatever it looks like. It could be plastic filled, you know, with
It needs to
water.
be visible.
That's great. Yeah, as long as they interlock and actually provide some
Some room.
physical protection.
Or it could be bollards, real bollards.
Real balance. Yeah.
I want to say that I think one of the issues in this whole area, but the bridge especially, is that there's a lot of people there who don't live in Emeryville. They don't drive there all the time, they're not familiar with the infrastructure, and this is kind of, it's an up, it's a hill and it's a curve, and I think these improvements will really help, but it is a real danger zone for bikes. And it's really unpleasant for bikes, and that's never gonna be different, because it's just unpleasant, but it's a very important connection, because there aren't many east-west
I'll
connections.
take that over Shellmont to get to the Bay Trail. Any day.
All right. So we want to vote on the motion that's on the floor, and we have this discussion already. Is there any more? Okay. We're ready for.
Well, I just want to know if there's anything we can do to the median. Is that just off the table to like cut the median?
At this time, it is. I do want to look for some funding opportunities to get rid of it, though. It would
Yeah.
open a lot of doors in this whole corridor.
I think I would
Yeah.
endorse that highly, to get rid of that median.
All right.
So, the motion at hand?
Yes, it is. All right. So we're going to vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, which can you remind me what that was?
so it could either be worded to recommend,
It is worded to recommend.
I'm not finished, to recommend curb, bollard, K-rail, or something.
Something
Or,
inflexible.
or it could be inflexible barrier.
Sounds like
Inflexible.
Okay.
Call it
So-
an inflexible vertical element.
Yeah.
Inflexible vertical element. That
Sounds
you
like
couldn't-
city planning.
Sounds good.
Inflexible vertical. Do you want to use the word
Element.
element?
Barrier?
Barrier element.
Yeah, we think barrier, he says element.
Okay.
And that's with a high consideration for a curb? Was that, did you include that in your,
No.
no?
That's
I'll
not.
take anything that
And
keeps
the,
the
and the
cars out of the
location
way.
is between the bus, is it both sides?
On the
or
buffer,
both
both
sides.
sides, right?
Both sides between the bus lane or the vehicle lane.
Yeah.
We're gonna vote
I want to, but I want to include the curb. I don't want to lose that. Can I
What's
make
the
it-
now. So is that a friendly amendment?
I want to.
Is that an inflexible vertical
Yeah, I
element?
didn't argue that's a.
It is, but I want to make sure that we have curb in there.
Including a consideration of a curb?
Like high consideration.
Is that just like a linear curb, or is
You
that
mean
one of those things
You would
where?
prefer a curve to a K-rail?
Those things like they have in parking lots.
K-rail's ugly.
I don't know
Yeah,
what the
but
K-rail
it's-
is, but like
If
a curb.
if I
with
can
a-
live, I'm okay with that way. Well, K-rail is like a Jersey barrier.
It's like a giant barrier.
It's the construction barriers.
It's a construction
Yeah.
barrier,
It's
you've
a-
seen them, it's like, it has a triangular base
Yeah.
and it's like a
We're-
cement
we're
thing that's
not
like
crazy
this
about
tall.
Oh,
These guys.
Not
Yeah.
really.
Well, they're,
Yeah.
they're
I think that's
saying,
too short.
$310.
they're saying that it's
Oh, there you
less,
go.
it's less likely for them to flip if the
I see.
K-rail.
Oh,
is less likely.
$199. Is that on Amazon?
Yeah.
I see, okay.
Is it
So,
free delivery?
So if that's in the motion, then I'm gonna keep as is and just not make it friendly.
Oh, maybe not.
I think I'm okay with.
If that is in it?
Sure.
Inflexible.
Okay. All right, so the motion is to recommend inflexible vertical element or barrier as a buffer between the bike lane and the lane of traffic on both sides of the bridge.
Correct. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and vote on that. So all those in favor of the motion on the floor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Okay, so 7,
Well, no,
1 no.
All right. And then do we have any abstentions? Just one. Okay.
Okay.
All right, sorry, Nick.
Please note, do not walk by target. There's an active shooter situation, only one person in custody.
Oh,
It's gonna alert everyone before they left. but
Right
There we go.
now?
I just got an update, yes. So,
Oh, goodness.
walk the other way.
They're not in the bike lane.
Okay.
Carolyn just emailed me.
That's weird. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, no problem.
This is item 5.4, the Bicycle-Pedestrian Advisory Committee Annual Report on the committee goals.
If you could take one and pass it around, please, and take one of these and pass it around, please. And everybody should end up with 2 sheets of paper. Oh, and if there's any left over, let me have one. I always do that. So,
Did you get the other one?
I wanted to introduce this item at this meeting and prepare you guys for discussing it at the next meeting. Thank you. So, as you can see from the document with the yellow highlighting, the BPAC report is going to be on March 6th, the council meeting. So this is, let me back up and just remind everybody, I guess, that rather than have like a work plan that we had in the past, that I don't know if we ever did very much of that, council decided that they wanted the committees to make an annual report. And it's kind of, you know, it shouldn't be that earth-shattering. It should just be like, what are your goals? What do you want? What
I
have you
would like
done?
it to be more earth-shattering.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, in other words, I don't want people feeling like all nervous and that they're gonna be graded on it or anything like that. Oh, you want to grade it? But what, if you think about what you've done the past year and what you want to do the next year, that's basically what this is going to be about. And it shouldn't be like, you know, a big project to come up with that, except at the next meeting to discuss it and come up with what you want to have in your report. So this is the preparation for that, just to get you guys thinking about it. These 2 pieces of paper, you take home and look at them and think about what the committee's goals and principles are, what the accomplishments have been. So just go down the one that's got the gray highlighting on it, go down the sheet and think about what you would put in all those places. And the typical person to make the report would be the chair. And unless, you know, you guys decide something different. And so we have the first was February 5th, I guess, the BPAC meeting, and that'll be enough time to get the report in to the city clerk by the 12th.
And then is some-
of February,
is somebody supposed to go to the city council meeting? and
on
present
March
it?
6th,
Okay.
to give the report. And that would be the chair, unless you guys decide something different. So, Ally, do you want to talk a little bit about what you want the report to be, since you think it, it seems like you have some thoughts about what
No,
you think it should be.
I was really looking at that, just, you know, I think there's a form here.
Okay.
Present as much pizzazz as possible.
We could do like a backflip or something afterwards.
And you guys can do like a course line.
Okay.
Wow, we could ride in on little mini bicycles.
I'm wondering if discussing this on the February's agenda is enough time to really put something together. Maybe like you and I can take a stab at it in January and then bring back a draft to the committee on
Sure.
February.
That's
Well,
a great idea.
you and maybe
Yeah,
Evan
the two of us
also?
could do it.
Okay.
Or anyone else who wants to get involved.
Can't be too many people
Can't
at
be too
once.
many people.
I nominate you
Yeah.
too.
Okay, I'm happy to step out if someone else would like to do it. I can do it too. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you think back to the past year, and obviously you've got like a wish list, you've got future agenda items, you know, these, and you know, the minutes and all that, just give you some idea of the kinds of things that everybody's been thinking about. And, oh, and let me see, does it say how long the report? Somewhere I've got it, it's not gonna be long, let me see, 5 minutes to present the report, and then council could have questions afterwards. So it's not a long presentation.
Oh, so we're or somebody's going to the council to present it.
We literally just, yes, yes.
Yeah.
March 6th. Got it, you got it.
Miguel, the chair, unless you guys decide something different.
Oh, wait, when we said, I thought you said write the report and be the chair.
Well, he'll
And
be the
he'll
one
also
who's.
show up at the council.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a
Make a
committee
presentation.
project, and there's also there's a PowerPoint template. It's not a big deal, I can show you that, but it just gives you like a format to make the presentation. So this helps you get your ideas on paper, you can translate that into the PowerPoint, and then you're ready to go. And all of you are encouraged to attend, so if you want to put that on your calendars.
Will the other committees present the same night?
There are, on this page with the highlighting, February 20th, there's 4 committees, and March 6th, there's 3.
Okay.
So we should go to February 20th and find out what
Yeah,
everyone else
right.
is doing.
Yeah.
Although it'll be too late by then.
So, I mean, feel free for any of you just to send me an email directly with any thoughts and ideas about, you know, going through this, what you think should be on it. So if Miguel and I, or Miguel and Evan are gonna be working on this, you know, any of your input, would you?
Would you actually?
email Miguel or you?
Marcy.
Me.
Marcy, okay.
All communication with me.
Okay.
Would you please send us several emails reminding us? Because I really think it should come from everyone, not just from you.
Wait, say again, what?
If you could send us
Yeah,
several emails reminding us to all sort of just,
Be
like
working
maybe
on
even
it?
send this form, but just like, it'd be nice if everyone could send some sort of response to you for each
Okay,
of these items.
sure.
So that, or for anything that people have ideas for.
Yeah, so you can fill in your thoughts on this piece of paper and send it back to me or something like that. Sure.
Great, yeah.
All right, do we have any questions about the report? No? All right.
And
We'll want-
I'll send out those emails and then maybe we can, are you guys gonna,
But is there
Yeah.
an example from a previous year?
this is new. You're blazing the
I
trail.
have examples from some other cities.
Like a working meeting or in person where we can like go back and forth and.
Sure.
Sometime
Okay.
before, like sometime in January.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so we're ready to move on. Let's move on to regular information items. 6.1, we have the planning department report. Hello.
The only thing I can think of is that the Fort San Pablo bus hub project, its existing conditions report is being completed. That's the project one of whose goals is to help buses and bikes live in harmony on 40th Street.
Mhm. Thank you.
That's about all I can think of.
Are there any updates on the public market project?
Public market, oh.
I have a few on the public works side.
Cool.
Good. Why don't I just say right now?
Yeah, we can move on to item 6.2, public works project status.
Well, to clarify also with Diana's, the 40th San Pablo Transit Hub project that we're doing, the feasibility study, is going to be looking at 40th Street as a whole corridor and kind of looking at how buses operate through there. So our idea of the 40th Street transit only lane is a big kind of jump start into that discussion and trying to get people, this is a transit corridor, and getting that going. So just to tie the pieces together there. So I'll first start with private development. So the marketplace development has some new streets that are going to be put in. They're going to be phasing in the street sidewalks, and right now, I don't know if you guys have been out there, they've been paving the new Shellman Street, the new realignment, and it should be open by the end of this month. So that's the other one is the Christie Avenue Park. We just had the pre-construction meeting for that, so starting this month, you'll see a brand new, nice park that's going to be well lit, a lot of new features, and be a great addition to that whole area. So that's coming soon. It's going to start in December. I think it has like a 5 to 6 month construction time, so I'd say late spring, early summer to start, or to open. And then Sherwin-Williams, they're here earlier today as part of their first phase of development. They're going to be doing some off-site public improvements where they're going to be some of these traffic calming features, some other bulb outs on Horton Street. They're going to be paving Sherwin Avenue and paving parts of Horton Street right there. That's expected to go next winter 2018 after all the approvals. So it's a little bit further out, but it's something that we're already starting the reviews on. So back to our Public Works Capital Improvement Program projects. Nancy, you want to start with yours and then I'll finish it out?
Okay, well,
sorry.
the science picking, we went out of order. Bike boulevard signs coming very soon. Bike share, we got, as nothing's changed, 9 on the ground. Greenway crossings, we're working on those, and those are going to be raised crosswalks. So I kind of like the consistency throughout the city of the treatment. Although those will also have RRFBs, the flashing beacons. I think those are all of mine, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The Greenway Stanford to Powell is almost done. That section behind the broken rack there, that should be done pretty soon.
It's supposed to be done this month, actually.
Is there any project in line for that intersection there at Horton and Powell? Or
Hollis.
Powell?
We are having a special study session with council on December 19th at the city council meeting. So if you guys want to attend that one, that'd be a good one to attend.
What is it about?
It's about pretty much the city as a whole, what we're doing as far as transportation projects, what we're planning in the future, what kind of funding opportunities we're going for, and looking at a big picture, kind of top level on a few projects, but one of the things we're looking at is the scramble at Powell Hall, so that's on our radar.
This is the big ticket item thing that we had discussed that you guys wanted us to take at council and to come back and get input from you. So we're going to do it at council and then at the next meeting to get your guys' input on what we discussed. So you can see all the staff reports. Staff reports aren't going to be done in time for this. Weren't going to be done in time for this meeting.
Is this in relation to that proposal to do that bikeway that on Stanford through Oakland and Berkeley, or is this separate?
That's one of the things on there.
Oh.
There's many projects on there.
Things.
Sorry, and what time is that meeting?
Allie, do you know?
Probably 6 p.m.
Yeah, for the special study session, it's a little bit before.
They switch it around depending on how much closed session time we have, so I don't know yet.
Yeah. It'll be posted about 2 weeks ahead of time, what the actual time is. This Friday, actually, I think was when it will get posted. So other projects that are going on in the city, we have the video detection traffic signal enhancement project. We're going to be putting in video detection 23 signals. Construction has started on that. So you see a couple signals that are a couple of detection cameras that are new at the Emery-Peralta-MacArthur intersection. We have a few right there. right now the crews are just putting in all the wiring and they'll put in the cameras pretty soon, so they'll make a very quick work of that. And I expect most of it to be done in end of January, probably February, when everything's active and online working. We had the Lumac pole retrofit project throughout the city. It's to provide better, safer lighting throughout the city. It's nearly complete. There's about 6 of them left throughout the city. This was taking high wattage lamps and converting them to LED low wattage lamps. It's going to save the city a lot of money on maintenance and a lot of just power draw. So it gives us money to do other projects. 2 new signals at Doyle and Powell and 40th and Harlan. We're getting that approved tomorrow at council for approval, permission to advertise the bids. And so we're going to bid that shortly thereafter, probably this month, and have a contractor on board to install it spring 2018. The South Bayfront Bridge project, that's the PED bike bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad landing at Horton Landing Park. That one's still on schedule right now, so if you guys have been keeping tabs on council meetings, there's been quite a few items related to that project of getting contractors online on board for this project. So
I believe it when I see it.
yeah,
25
be a big
years
one.
for a project? Yeah.
so construction is expected to begin in early 2018 for that one. Let's see, going on. So Horton Street traffic calming, that's something that we're working on with Sherwin-Williams. They were here earlier today. We're taking your guys' feedback and we're finalizing their design and plans, and that's going to be part of their phase 1 offset improvements, which would actually happen in 2018, so here coming up pretty soon. I don't know, I have a few more, but for press for time. If there's any, if you guys can think of, just let me know.
The intersection at 64th and Shellmound, right now it's a construction zone, so it looks like there's going to be another light put in the corner there, but it's really dark. And so crossing to get to the eastern side of Shellmound at that intersection is really scary at nighttime.
It's 64th of Shellmound?
Yes.
Okay. So that one, yeah, it's going to have new LED lights. That's actually where some of our Lumex haven't been done yet.
Yes.
So it's going to have better lighting there. And when it's all open with Shellmound, the bike lanes through there are going to be a lot better, working a lot better. So.
Do you have a date on when the lighting will be put in?
This month, actually. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
I wanted to say, Evan, I think you commented on a C-click fix thing about the bushes in
Oh,
the
yeah, I
area.
did, yeah.
Yeah, and so our crew, we talked to the crews, they had been kind of prohibited from doing it because of the construction. They would have had to close the whole block. But they thought maybe as early as today, or certainly this week, they were gonna get out there.
That's great, awesome.
Yeah.
I have one other question, which is 62nd and Hollis, that signal. When is that coming online?
That one's coming online probably early January is when it's going. So that if you guys have been out there, the foundations are being set right now for poles. So
Awesome.
yeah, so that's coming soon. Yeah, I should have had that for element. So, yeah, coming soon.
Thanks for the updates.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to continue on to future agenda items. Item 7.1.
I have one that I would love to get on the future list. It's not time sensitive, but to review the planning stuff from Oakland. Oh, no, it's already on there, never mind.
Everybody got one of these? Okay.
I'd like to have one item on there, which is wheelchair access, because I got a lot of things to say about that.
Wheelchair access, what?
Wheelchair access in the city and how you resolve issues when you have sidewalks that are not straight and all that.
That's a good one.
There's one on the wish list on the 40th Street.
So,
Can we start with the items that are definitely going to be on the agenda? First February?
yeah, so I have 18 and 19 on here that are going to, those are going to be February. And
I need a copy of that sheet.
do you need another one?
Yeah.
I think with that said, we have enough time to really add just like 1 or 2 things at the most. in addition to those.
Well, the
Exactly.
wish list,
So,
we table the wish
What I
list.
wanted to also mention is that the police department,
Mhm.
we've been putting it off and putting it off and I keep telling them, it's like, there's no time on the agenda. So now he's poised, and this is not Joel Hannon, but Lieutenant Mike Allen, to come on,
February.
at the February meeting. So, he doesn't have to, but, you know, if you want to talk about bike theft, if you want to talk about collision statistics, I don't know if you have enough info, you were talking about what's going on in San Francisco with bike theft?
Yeah, they just pointed off on DPW. So, because that's not really what I want to do here.
Yeah, okay, okay. So, yeah, I don't know if the PD, and then, so we did, the other thing that's gonna be on there, I'm trying to see, this is just the wish list, right?
I don't want us to forget about the walk-in bike tour, but it sounds like it's gonna be too much for February, so maybe we can sort of have an eye on that for March.
March, okay.
Just because if we wait too long, it's gonna be
Yeah.
hard to schedule it.
Yeah,
in summer
absolutely.
With the weather.
Okay, so the large-scale projects from council at the February meeting, I wrote 20 to 30 minutes, but 30 minutes is probably more realistic, right?
I talk real fast.
Yeah, but they don't.
30 minutes is, that's like, I think 30 minutes is pretty solid.
Yeah.
And
We'll
then
probably go over
the council annual report, maybe 15 or 20?
20.
See what happens here? And then the wish list that we didn't even talk about.
15. Just being realistic here. Like we can say 10, but it's really gonna be.
No, I was thinking more than 15.
Yeah.
It might be.
So what do you
There's
think?
like 30-something things on there.
I mean, I had it all
Oh, yeah,
ready.
yeah,
for
yeah,
all
there's
done.
24 things.
What are we doing though here with that wish list? Are we deciding what the priorities are? Or
Well, we're
Yeah.
gonna see what everybody voted the priorities
Yeah.
are for each person.
And then we'll decide if we want to,
So if there are discrepancies, and those are the only ones that we'll have to discuss then.
yeah, if we all agree on some of them, that's a good point.
Yeah, yeah. But discussing any one of those items could take.
So 20 minutes is
So you can just call the items that
wishful
are
thinking.
non-discrepancies.
There,
But we
what
should
I,
see.
I ordered the list, so it's from, low to high,
Marcy,
I mean, from high to low.
are you allowed to share that prior to that meeting then? Like, can't you share that?
Yeah, I can hand it out.
Oh, did
You
everyone
want-
vote?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
You want to just take it home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Can you email it too?
Yeah.
That'd be really helpful.
Great, thank you.
All right. So we're not talking about this now, we're just taking it home. Okay, so for the agenda for February, yeah, oh, and, yeah, I think that's probably enough. And I don't know if it's going to be any planning items. And then the usual, planning and public works reports, so probably February is solid.
There's a lot to do in February, I don't think we're gonna fit it in, but, okay.
Yeah, there is a lot in bike work days, like right in the corner from there, we were talking about having a walkthrough. So yeah, there's just so much that just gets piled up on our wish list.
Yeah. Every time. Okay,
So that's the agenda then for February, huh? Yeah? Okay.
yeah, I think so. The wish list, the council items, and your guys' annual report. Oh, and what about the police department too?
March.
Want to put them up again?
Yeah, we don't have
We
time.
don't have time.
Okay.
So Marcy, can you email this and also the
Yes.
report thingy, that document?
All right, do any members have any announcements or comments?
Sorry, what did
Oh,
you?
yeah, we have one, which is what Marcy sent us. It's actually really important that we give feedback on that Caltrans plan. The reason it's important is because there was a lot of voice from Berkeley, but there wasn't a lot of voice from Emeryville. And so what that means is that if we don't if we don't voice our opinions about the need for sort of like the corridor through on San Pablo, et cetera, that really Caltrans won't value our city in the way that they should. So if everyone can take some time, you sent that out today.
I'd like to underline that. Evan and I went to the Caltrans meeting and they literally drew a line of protected bike lane and stopped it at the end of Berkeley because nobody had put in that information from Emeryville. So it is of it, and I gave them a lot of crap at the meeting for it, and Evan was there too, but we would like to get on that survey.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the deadline for that feedback?
It's November 20, or December 22nd, I think. Is it?
Yes, President.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Soon.
All right.
And I will just make one local comment, is that my neighbors have requested traffic calming, like I said, at 55th and Doyle, because people come around that corner really fast. And there seems to be, it's a very slow speed street, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic back and forth to parking lots and buildings, and kids and people living there, and it seems to be there's a little more high-speed traffic, so.
Can we take that onto transportation?
Okay. Yeah, that would be great.
Send it to me an email, we can put that in transportation and upload, because you guys are very busy right now.
Okay, that would be awesome, we'll email you.
Ryan's writing it down.
All right, do we have any more comments? All right, I'm going to close this meeting at 8 o'clock.
There's going to be a wedding.
We have to go over it.
We did.
It's not just like, I'll try to find the email.
Okay. And it's actually like one of the.
I heard you say to email the wish list and then you said something else.
You emailed this thing to the stuff about our.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great.
We should-
Okay, okay.
Basically,